Listen to me very carefully. I have told you for months on air they're going to try to kill Trump. And when they try to kill Trump, they're going to go after everybody else that is his top supporters. And they also will try to kill Biden and blame it on a Trump supporter. That's coming next. Make no mistake, the same deep state that's behind Biden, that's trying to make him step down, was behind this today. They're now reporting it was an Antifa shooter who's now been killed. How convenient is that the supposed shooter has been killed? Ladies and gentlemen, our republic is in maximum danger right now. I'm about to go live at Infowars.com/show, banned.video, and right here on X. There has been an attempted assassination. The real president of the United States has been shot, and by God's good graces has survived. The bullet only grazed him over the ear and the side of his head. But ladies and gentlemen, the deep state is desperate. They are in trouble. They're going to try to expand wars. They can do power outages. They can do cyber attacks. We're in such a dangerous position. And I've noticed with all the viral videos out there, it's like, oh, he took a bullet for America. He's going to get reelected now. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state did this. Make no mistake. And that lets you know they're going for broke. Do you fucking understand what I'm telling you? Take this deadly serious, just like war with Russia. They are going to try to kill Trump again. Now that they didn't kill him once, they are completely desperate. And I'm going to tell you again, Biden won't step down. The deep state will probably kill him or try to kill him in the next few days and blame it on a Trump supporter. And we may see massive terror attacks in America that are blamed on Trump supporters. They've been pre-programming it. They've been preparing. I've been telling you, imminent assassination attempt on Trump every damn day. Because that's what a dying, corrupt establishment does when their back is against the wall. We're living in a historical moment right now. We need Americans, people around the world, to pray for President Trump and pray for America, but also politically get out there on X and everywhere else that has some free speech and get the point out that this attempted assassination that actually wounded the president, took a bullet for America, lies at the feet of the deep state and the corporate media that said kill him, destroy him, he deserves to die, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi. It lays at their feet. Instead, I see conservatives celebrating, hey, he'll win for sure now. It means the globalists are going to go for a broke. It means they know their time is up. So I'm glad Trump survived. I am so happy. Thank God. Thank you, Jesus. But ladies and gentlemen, do you think this happened by accident? No. And do you think the system's going to back down now? No. Power outages, cyber attacks, expanded war, China invading Taiwan, stock market crash. It's all on the table, and the deep state's behind it. I'll be covering it live, coming up on X at Real Alex Jones in the next 10 minutes. Join me there and share the link if you want to stop these people dead in their fucking tracks. This is time to be serious, and time to be focused, and time to stop being naive and wake up.
My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans, I hate Trump, and guess what? You got the wrong guy.
Yep, that's right. The gaslighting is continuing. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and welcome to the special edition of Steel News. Incredible times in which we are witnessing right now. I mean, honestly, I don't think I can think back in recent history, save the Reagan assassination attempt, where we actually encountered anything to this degree. President Trump has been under assault by the deep state since the day he came down the escalator. We know it, you know it, the whole world knows it. Why do you think we are not in the midst of World War III legitimately right now? It's because cooler heads are prevailing. That's right. This great reset that the World Economic Forum is trying to institute and constitute is all about the international banking cabal and controlling both sides of the war transaction, the war machine. BRICS is standing up. Real asset-backed currencies, real people with real bankers, people of humanity are standing up. You may not like every ruler over in the BRICS countries, but hey, this is how it's always been in world history. We've got to figure out how to get along. The fact that Putin hasn't launched nuclear weapons at the United States or any of our Western allies is only because he has been the adult in the room. But what we're seeing now is a complete collaboration of the evil, the deep state cabal in the United States government. I want to bring this up. I put this out on X earlier today with respect to how I actually see what is happening right now. And this is a U.S. government conspiracy. where Secretary Mayorkas and the Department of Homeland Security are in charge of the Secret Service. Facts. Operation Burning Edge, the team of Michael Yon, myself, and others, has reported that Mayorkas is facilitating the invasion of America, coordinated with the United Nations and World Economic Forum under false narrative that the tens of millions of illegal invaders are coming to America for a better life. The recent inauguration of the newly elected president of Panama, Jose Raul Molino, is a threat to and a game changer for Biden's open borders policy. Molino summoned Mayorkas to Panama and demanded that the U.S. government fund the repatriation flights of illegals back to their home countries and help fund the closure of the Darien Gap, where illegals come from Colombia into Panama. But wait, there's more. Panama now has leverage over the U.S., and in a bold move, Molino told Mayorkas that if he did not comply with his demands, Panama would restrict U.S. access to the Panama Canal. This giving wide-reaching implications, including threats to national security, supply chain, gross domestic product. It would also make it very difficult for any attempt for the Biden regime to engage in war with China over Taiwan, as moving troops, etc., would be cumbersome. Know this, that Mayorkas was a former board member of HOWSE, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, who is complicit in the invasion of America. Let's be clear, folks. The United States government is at war with Americans, and the fact that a clear traitor like Mayorkas is over the Secret Service leaves no coincidence that there was a total failure by the Secret Service to protect real Donald Trump. We have a fantastic show for you today. We have an all-star cast lineup of guests, and joining me first up here in the show is my good friend Mel K. She has been riding shotgun with me for years. We used to do a regular show on my previous platform, Steel Truth, every Thursday night. I feel like I have a big responsibility to carry her delicately because she's become such a powerhouse out there, and she's become such a strong voice for the globalists and what they stand for and how they've been fighting to destroy America. She says it better than others. These globalists aren't after America. They're not even after you and me. They're after the world, and America is in the way. Joining me now is Mel K. Mel, you have been such a strong voice out here on this conversation about globalism. I couldn't think of anybody better than to start this broadcast off with you today. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Ann, and I really appreciate that. We have to look at things geopolitically. There's been a lot of things happening that will, above all else, really ruin the whole plan of the global governance model, the whole Great Reset, all of that. And there's trillions of dollars at stake. There's many things that are happening in the background. And you have to ask yourself, what is the real threat of Donald Trump? Because it's certainly not a threat to democracy. It's not a threat to America. It is a threat to the people that are controlling all the global chaos right now. And, at this point, if people don't see the truth that America stands at the precipice, and Donald Trump just showed when he stood up bloody and as anyone else would run and be terrified, he stood up fierce and told us to continue to fight for this country. This man didn't have to do this. He has a great life. And instead, he's spending his time actually taking a bullet for we, the people of the United States. And I just couldn't be more amazed at how he's behaving, how they're all behaving. And at the same time, we do have to really examine, what happened here, but also who benefits from this. Because again, we're going to find out as it trickles out that, there wasn't enough security, or he was denied security or whatever. And we'll find out more about the shooter. But in the meantime, we really have to understand that America, we are all on the same side at the end of the day. The same people that want to take down every single one of us see Donald Trump as the threat to their creation, what they created. When they talk about their democracy, they're talking about their infrastructure, their institutions. Well, their institutions are failing terribly. And the only thing that they can do, unfortunately, is exactly what we saw last night.
Well, again, I think Americans are waking up to the seriousness of the situation. For those that weren't paying attention for all this time, didn't understand that there was a real war going on between the United States government, controlled by the deep state international banking cabal, the World Economic Forum, the Committee of 300, all the people you've talked about for years, Mel. You really led that discussion, as far as I'm concerned, for a very long time. I think they're now understanding that we really have a problem. We're completely out of control. We have open borders. Illegals are moving into cities by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and they're taking over. And they're gaslighting us with the fact that they're getting paid $2,200 a month for having done nothing to contribute to the economy of the United States of America. And they're here to take and disrupt And frankly, they're an army for evil. And I think that that's the that is the message that people are finally coming along to. In fact, what I found really quite interesting, and I want to share this with you, is the fact that people at the Trump rally yesterday recognized a big player in this evil cabal. Take a look.
This is your fault. You. This is your fault. Every last one. This is your fault. It is your fault. This is your fault. You. This is your fault.
I mean, Mel, when you look at these folks out there, these are Trump supporters. They've been there, as always. The MAGA crowd is always just so peaceful, so happy. If you bump into somebody, everybody's apologizing to everybody. There's never a fight at a MAGA Trump rally. But now you see that people are literally galvanized, and they are pointing the finger directly at the mainstream media. They know they've been carrying the water. What were your takeaways from some of the reporting you saw yesterday on either CNN, ABC, or wherever?
Well, I mean, we really have to understand that what is going on is that these media people, especially Intel Television, MSNBC, CNN, and some of the other ones, even Fox at times, they don't really tell their audience the truth. It's as if they despise their audience even more than they despise the MAGA people, because what they've done is they've left them not only gaslit, but unprepared. Eyes are not open. People don't understand what's going on. They lie to them about everything. It is such a disservice. But, I'm not surprised at all. And we have to remember that the powers that be that control the mainstream media and the intel community that works with them hand in hand are really ramping it up. Last week, Joy Reid went on a whole diatribe that millions of people saw, calling Trump Hitler, that's the goal. We had Joe Biden just yesterday talking about how Trump's a convicted felon. He's listed all these lies about what Trump has done, what he has said. And frankly, it's coming from the top. When it's coming from the top, it's very, very difficult for people that are not being told the true information, are being fed lies. This week, the New Republic had an actual picture of Trump as Hitler on the cover. You got Kagan, who's Victoria Nuland's husband, writing op-eds about Trump being a dictator. When he was president, he didn't do any of these things. So it's all just gaslighting and lies and fear, and they feed off the fear. And, this is a point where we have to just realize that the media itself is complicit. They've been since before Crossfire Hurricane. Everything that they did the first round of Trump in office was to stop him, to demoralize the country. And again, you got to remember Trump, when he says they're not after me, they're after you, I'm in the way. It's about demoralizing and dehumanizing all of us, all
Right.
the people that support Trump, all the people that vote for Trump. This is why, even for me, I have Americans Anonymous coming out, because the problem is that we are being fed a steady diet of conflict and chaos and toxic anger and fear every single day from these people. And it spills over. And it's really, really at a point where we are in that phase of everything is possible and nothing is real, where chaos is so easily ensued and facts get lost. And we have a totally complicit media. And frankly, that these people get to go on the air. And then don't forget all the criminals that committed sedition and treason before Trump's presidency, but certainly in the Crossfire Hurricane, fake Mueller report, both impeachments. Those people are the most, to me, scared right now. I really feel that they feel like, they got away with it thus far. There was a decision this week about Hillary Clinton's campaign, reopening up that door with David Brock's PAC and the money, $6 million. So what we're dealing with also is a bunch of criminals, true criminals, enemies of the state, that are more concerned with protecting themselves and never being held accountable for the 8 years of terrorizing this nation with fraud and lies. And I just really feel like we're at a place where they need to be not only held accountable in the public opinion, but there has to be some back end looking into the coordination between all of these news channels, the intelligence blob under Mayorkas with DHS, and the lawfare crew. Don't forget the lawfare crew, Weissman, Eisen, McCord. They have been behind the scenes manipulating everything, coming up with these novel theories, and they've turned rule of law and law and order and justice into a joke. And we got to turn it around. The rest of the world is horrified watching what's going on here. And if you're one of their viewers of The View or any of these horrible shows, you are right now I would say, completely devoid of understanding the reality we're dealing with in the
Right.
world. And I also think, Anne, a big problem for them is that Orban went around last week to try to negotiate peace. He went and saw Putin, he went and saw Xi, then he came to America, went and saw Trump. And let me tell you
Not
something.
Biden. He didn't go see Biden. He went to see Trump, right?
No,
Because he
and
knows, yeah,
yeah, and they can't allow that war to end. This is
no,
a trillions and trillions of dollars. Not just that, the Great Reset, the central bank digital currency, all the plans that they have for their global governance, post America model counts on Trump not winning. If he wins, he's going to pull out of everything again, and they can't have that. And that's when I say the parent company that's really running America has the most to lose. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars invested in Agenda 2030 that they just are completely in on. And we have a place right now where there's multiple layers, but the geopolitical situation, I believe, is the one that they want to control the most. They're scared he's going to dismantle NATO. They're scared he's going to make peace. And they're scared that, frankly, they're going to be held accountable. So, there's many layers here. And I think that it's just hit a crescendo. But God bless Donald Trump. God's hand was on him and on our country and, frankly, the world.
no question at all. No question at all. I'm going to play a quick video. I'm going to bring Pete Santilli in also to start some of the analyzation here because, Pete and I were live with Brennan HOWSE last night for a few hours. And, in real time, we're getting stuff in. Jovan Hutton Pulitzer also did some incredible analysis, slowing down the actual shooting. And I mean, you literally see in a split second, Donald Trump's head just turn for a twitch. And it was just that twitch at the right time that the shooter could not have accounted for that caused the bullet from going here to just sailing past and grazing him. It's just extraordinary, the hand of God in all of this. But again, I don't think any of us are surprised this has happened. Alex Jones has warned, Tucker Carlson has warned, Roger Stone has warned, and many others have warned that they were going to make this assassination attempt. Now they've just, as with everything else, taken the masks off and done it publicly. But again, gaslighting upon gaslighting upon gaslighting. I want to get your comment on this, and we're going to bring in Pete.
My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans. I hate Trump. And guess what? You got the wrong guy.
What do you think about that, Mel?
Look, I mean, we've been here so many times before. At what point are we going to hear about his background and about knowing about him? I'm not speculating that that's the case right now. It seems very odd. And if you watch the footage and you watch the snipers, they clearly saw him before he shot. And this is really, and then there's a lot of people coming out that say that they were telling the cops that there was a guy on the roof with a rifle. I mean, we really, really have to get to the bottom of this. This can't be another one of those Vegas where we get it open and closed and that's the story and moving on, because that is not what happened here. If people in the crowd saw it, then the cops saw it. And also we have to really look at what is going on with Secret Service and not forget that Secret Service falls under Mayorkas and DHS.
Right.
And the woman is a true Biden loyalist, has been with him a long time, that's running Secret Service. And, just last week, Benny Thompson of the fraudulent January 6th committee and everything else against Trump wanted to rescind his Secret Service. It really is very telling what these people are, but we've been dealing with good versus evil. We are in a time period in history unprecedented where evil is showing its face without any fear. And frankly, it is God and the people of God and the people of faith that are the answer to this question of where are we going to head with this country. And I feel like the world's going to rally around, because there's no doubt in my mind that what they wanted to happen is exactly this, and they could not do it. I felt all along that the only reason they were not trying to take out Trump was because they didn't want him to be a martyr. And frankly, that has nothing to do with this. What it has to do with is that we are dealing, I believe, with true evil and people that are putting themselves and their own skin above the people of this country, and frankly, above God. And it's got to stop. They have no ability to deal with rational thoughts or rational debate. They are gone. And it's just a very sad day when we have people all over this country that have truly no facts about what is happening.
Agreed. Let me grab Pete Santilli because I know he's got a beat on this as well. Pete, thank you so much. It's great to see you. Boy, long time no see since we were live with Brennan HOWSE for a few hours last night in real time covering this. I know you have had a team that has been diving deep into this over there at Santilli Report. What can you tell us?
Okay, a couple of things. I want to back up, ladies, and if I jump off the rails and I go too conspiratorial, stop me. Okay, but we have to be conspiracy theorists. Let let me back up a few seconds here. Back when John F. Kennedy was shot, the FBI was in charge of that investigation for how many years did they try to push off on us that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone shooter? Now we know many, many decades later. The cover-up will ensue as soon as the FBI is called in, number one. Is that a fact, or is that is that true?
That is true. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very scary.
Yes, very scary. So they assassinated. We now know the CIA, Cuba, so on and so forth. Someone was involved. It was a staged hit. We know that many, many years later. I don't want to wait that long, so I need to generally assume that same cabal that came to power when John F. Kennedy was assassinated is now attempting to assassinate President Trump. That their power is being threatened because President Trump is not going to have anything of it. Okay, so that's the first fact. Here's the second fact, and I'm directly related to this. All of their operational orders for their black operatives takes place on the FBI servers, the child porn servers. This is, ladies and gentlemen, you can go look it up. The FBI has been running child porn servers. We have them caught running in the chat rooms. They're covert operatives communicating in those servers on the chat rooms. And those servers were moved because they got caught, were moved to Fort Washington, Maryland. So why do I bring this up? Not to impress anybody. We now have an active investigation into the attempted assassination of President Donald J. Trump. And if it does not include seizing all of those servers that are in Fort Washington, Maryland, then I'm going to, not to provocateur or anything, we will save our nation. If the Secret Service doesn't immediately fire the leader of the Secret Service, because it was an absolute, no doubt about it, there were failures by the Secret Service. B, I'm understanding that Secret Service had President Trump's detail on a skeleton crew. That's a problem in and of itself. So the Secret Service needs to be fired because they weren't providing adequate security. And why that sniper who had it's not like the shooter was out of range. He had him in his sights. They don't need, they have shoot to kill orders. They don't need any communication, any permission. You see somebody with a gun, boom, you take them out. Why did he hesitate? That needs to be investigated as well. Not saying that the Secret Service is part of it. Well, you start connecting dots that Congress is talking about removing President Trump's Secret Service. Then they're actually running them on a skeleton crew. And then next thing you know, a assassination attempt takes place.
That's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever.
Yep. Okay, now what you have there most likely, and I don't know what their operational procedures are, but you typically have a spotter, right? You get a spotter. He's pinpointing, and he's right next to every single sniper will have a spotter with him as part of his detail. So the one guy to the right there, that right arrow, is the spotter, and then the counter sniper is the one with his sniper rifle on the pod. Here's the third element that I want to discuss. And if I'm off the rails, please stop me. I have deep researched the following. I'll use the Buffalo shooter that was radicalized online for 2 years. Okay, that part of that radicalization included mind control perpetrated by what we now know was a team of 6 people. One was a former FBI senior special agent that 30 minutes prior to the Buffalo shooter going into that grocery store, that mass shooter in Buffalo, that they all knew about it and they all disappeared. The radicalization online, you could take any individual, you could subject them to screen flicker technology. It's very real. It's a means of remote hypnotizing somebody that's vulnerable to it. You radicalize them, you hypnotize them, you activate them. And activating means that you could take any individual that's vulnerable to hypnosis, online screen flicker technology, that maybe they're upset about the government, and you work with them for a couple of years. And then when you get them hypnotized, you say, well, when you hear the words blue banana, you need to get up and go climb a building and go shoot President Trump. I'm just using that. Now, I've read the CIA FOIA documents on wanttoknow.info as to how they did that without the technology, how they can program somebody that it's called H. You get them under H, under hypnosis, and you activate them. And what they do is they split their personalities. They hypnotize that one personality that they want. They activate them after hypnosis, and that's how they get these people robotized. Now, that information is, I know exactly where it's located, and I think you know this, that I have in the federal court system as of April, I have submitted a sworn affidavit to a federal judge seeking protection because of the information that I know exists as to the evidence that's with the CIA's OIG about Fort Washington, Maryland. If the Secret Service does not investigate and include seizing all those servers at Fort Washington, Maryland, then that's part of the cover-up. But we know, when I say it's an intel services op, I know where the evidence is, ladies and gentlemen. And John Brennan's behind it. James Comey's behind it. Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama had a terminal accessing Fort Washington, Maryland. This is all right out in the open. Now, this is all being used, not just against President Trump, ladies and gentlemen. They take over all the judges. They know how to subvert our federal court system, our local court system. There's a system of blackmail that they use in order to bring people in. You submit your collateral. They have pictures of you diddling, 4-year-old little boys. This is the most corrupt, evil entity, and their computer system is in Fort Washington, Maryland. And if the Secret Service and the powers that be don't go and seize those servers, I'm going to call for a tire burning ceremony out in front of the building, and we're going to bring some attention to it. That is a lot of stuff to handle. Now, poke in all of the elements. You've got all the right ingredients. And first and foremost, everyone is traumatized. They want to provoke people. And I'm going to say this here now. Do not take the bait, because what they want is us to act out. They're going to declare a national emergency, suspend our Constitution, suspend the election, and Joe Biden is in charge. They want that. We came this close yesterday. If President Trump was assassinated yesterday, it would have been over. It would have been over. I was ready to go shoot people. I wanted to go. If President Trump was assassinated, it's on. Now, I say I was ready to go shoot people. I was very, very upset. I said, we're at war. Now, I wasn't going to go shoot people, but could you imagine somebody that doesn't have the composure?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many people would have snapped? And that's what they wanted. I'm telling you, that's what they wanted. That was their end game objective. They're trying to set us off so that they can they're one signature away. So that's my 50,000-foot view. Does that sound like some cockamamie conspiracy theory, Ann?
No, Pete, it sounds very plausible after everything we've learned about the Mueller investigation and Bill Barr. And, I don't want to beat the dead horse of this whole Q thing, but, Q really was a Bolshevik psyop, right? It's the same thing they used back in 1917 in Russia to subdue people into thinking, oh, somebody else is going to take care of the problem. There may be an element of some Q, level security people that are great guys that are trying to do something. I don't discount that at all. But the whole thing is very suspect when everybody's being told to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And, a lot of the people that they are claiming were, the good guys, the bad guys, we're starting to see other information come out. It's getting to be, the misinformation, disinformation is at an all-time high. It's like a deafening roar right now. And to me, I attribute that as the deep state's dying. They know they're losing, and it's about the money. Like Mel said, trillions of dollars here. And again, BRICS is getting bigger and more powerful. They're going to form their own parliament. Vladimir Putin is the head of BRICS. He's the chairman right now. They are going to eat the Western central bankers' lunch when it comes to the de-dollarization. America can no longer survive on the hegemony of the US dollar. It's over. What America can survive on, and what she should always have been surviving on, is her people and our natural resources, for which we have plenty. We are just a diamond on the planet with everything that we have. But again, they've made us believe through their psychological warfare, Al Gore included, global warming and all this nonsense, that we're killing the planet. No, in fact, they have been killing the planet this entire time. And now they're killing us. And now they're trying to kill us and our morale by taking out the one guy who was always going to stand up to this deep state. Now they know they have all of us. They see the retribution coming and building on the internet. And I think our job right now, we have a major responsibility. When you have a microphone and you have a platform, your responsibility is to keep Americans calm, alert, aware, heads on swivels. But we don't need to go on offense with guns. What we need to go on offense with is our voices and the pen. Maureen Steele always has said, pen is mightier than the sword. She echoes our founding fathers on that. So, Mel, comment.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's very important that we understand. Me and Pete have done shows on it, and I have to say, NATO is very threatened by the whole situation as well, especially after last week with Orban. And I'm sure both of you know, but I don't know if the audience does. There are actual documents, Battle for the Brain from NATO, from the Innovation Hub that is actually on our soil, basically talking about how turning human brains into the weapons of the future. That the future will be built on war that is actually man versus man manipulating brains. It's called the Battle for the Brain. It's a NATO document that I actually have on the resource page that still exists. I'm sure they're wiping them off the internet, but frankly, it goes through all of the ways that they can use psychological operations on individuals or groups, both through the internet and in real time and in real life. This is real psychological operation warfare, cognitive warfare. And it's on a military scale, and they can do whatever so we have to watch right now, because I'm watching already the people online saying it's fake, it was staged. Other people people died yesterday and they're acting like it didn't happen. Oh, this is Trump's desperate. This is all psychological warfare, psychological operations, and we have to really keep in mind that this is a military scale. Like Pete was talking about, this isn't new, but the level to which they can insidiously get inside people's heads, create silos, create the feeling that like there's a majority of people that agree with something. It can all be manipulated. But the battle for the brain and the using the brain of individuals as a weapon is something that is totally documented in all of their documents.
Can I interject one thing? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we have to learn our way through this. There's a lot of stuff that I know that Ann, Mel K, myself, a lot of stuff that we research that the public's not really ready to hear the heaviness of it because it doesn't compute. Like, for instance, I didn't want to deal with child sex trafficking. It was just too overwhelming to me. And then I started digging in and I discovered it was truly real. So there's a lot of stuff, but you need to learn something. Mel K just mentioned something about military style psyops. All right. And let me tell you what I discovered in Afghanistan. They did this thing where they win the hearts and minds, okay? And they go out, the military goes into the community, and they actually plant seeds. It's called the Delphi technique. And they want to get the local population to believe that everybody or the majority is going to go along with XYZ, that we want to get, bananas, into our community here. We're going to set up an infrastructure to do that. And they have these people that are applauding, saying, yes, we need to do that. It creates the false impression of consensus. They do that in order to nudge the population, get the population to accept it versus forcing it upon them. Well, guess what? Same thing, same techniques are applied online. They're going to create a false consensus that, oh, it's fake, it's fake. They do this technique so that they can get everybody in unison doing it, so that you, unsuspecting, you just fall into it and say, oh, well, it must be fake. Everyone believes that it is. Do not take the bait. You don't trust anything. You only believe that which you've researched yourself. There's nothing to indicate that it was fake. I saw President Trump do this, a grazing wound. He's so blessed, of course. We had a sniper on the hill. I saw the reaction of the Secret Service sniper. Were all of those elements fake? No, they weren't. I find it very hard to believe. And guess what else? Here's the number one indication. Ann, Mel, have you ever been under live fire exercises where you're actually taught what it's like to be under fire? You know what it sounds like when you're being fired at?
I've been to shooting ranges many times, but never been under a live fire exercise. No.
Here's what they do in all the military. Marine Corps in particular, I can speak to that. You're on your back. It's a live fire exercise. And they want you to know what it's like to have a bullet fly over your head. And it doesn't sound like a boom. It doesn't sound like a crack. It doesn't sound like anything. You know what it sounds like? A snap. Snap, snap, snap. When you hear that snapping, right? Any of that snapping that you hear going over you, and it's almost very subtle. It's breaking the sound barrier. And then you hear the gunshot afterwards when that bullet passes you. I heard snaps yesterday. I heard snaps. Now, of course, there's a lot of microphones and stuff like that. Those snaps tell me that real bullets were breaking the sound barrier in that venue. Period. That is not fake. That's not fake. Because a fake scenario would be, oh, I've got a blank round and I'm going to make the sound of a boom, and then President Trump's going to drop, and none of that took place. I heard a lot of snapping. Did you ladies? I heard snapping from multiple views, right?
Oh, yeah, I certainly did. And also, the truth about all of this is that it's not surprising. It's terrible and it's shocking. But what we're dealing with, honestly, at this point, you and I have talked many times, Pete, about the color revolution model that has been used this whole time by the same people. And what they really want is to create this chaos, this idea. So, of course, they're going to pop into it all of the, it's not real and all of that stuff. And at the same time, there's also a whole contingency of people out there that are cheering it on, that wish that he got closer. And meanwhile, if that was a Trump supporter, especially after January 6th, you're going to hear a lot about January 6th right now, because they're going to lose that narrative. So they're already spinning it like, this is what you get for January 6th. I mean, that is how crazy the stuff online is. I frankly can't even go online right now because it's so repulsive.
Oh,
But
hold on a second. Can we agree that there's a possibility that might be fake as well as a provocation? Because what human being, you know what, Mel and myself, Maureen, even if Joe Biden had his brains blown out, that's not a good thing for our country. That's the presidency of the United States. What human being would want Joe Biden to be assassinated? Really? I mean, as much as we hate the guy and his regime, how many of us want that? We are a law-abiding people. I don't believe that that's even real out there. Those people saying, "Oh, you miss." Well, they're TikTokers probably looking for clicks, but the overall groundswell of these people that are saying you missed, is a provocation. I believe it's a very, very upsetting to hear our political opposition say that, and it's allowed. They let it. I mean, if I said something like that, I said, "Let's go shoot communists today," what would they do to me? They'd shut me down like that. Why are these people allowed to talk about, why did you miss? What, let's go get somebody with more accuracy. All of that disgusting stuff is allowed to go on full blast. If I start calling for the killing of communists and napalming of Viet Cong, I get shut down immediately. You have to wonder why they're put on blast.
Yeah,
That's right.
And
That's
the
right.
FBI being the ones that are looking into this, and especially that particular FBI office, it's disturbing at this point because, frankly, we know that the FBI has never released any of the information about the Epstein case or anything else that they don't want to. And the last thing I want to see here is an open and shut. Okay, we're done the entire investigation, and then they turn that against us again. Then the DHS, because of course they're allowed to continue to propagandize us, kind of just starts to pick off anyone that's giving out misinformation about this. I mean, it's just a never-ending cycle of them abusing their power, the totally out of control intelligence branch that shouldn't exist, that was fomented and fed through this whole idea that we have a domestic terrorist, a white supremacy, Christian nationalist. I mean, every day, in and out, in and out. So, at this point, they're going to change probably the entire tactic and make it more like, well, this is what happens in a divided country. And they're going to try to put it on Trump supporters, as always, in my opinion.
So I want to just quickly play something really regarding a comment Joe Biden made. Matt Walsh is publishing this. We have Jovan Hutton Pulitzer in the Digital Green Room also. I want to bring him in here as well, because he did some incredible reporting. I don't think he went to bed last night. I think he stayed up all night looking at clips and building these clips where he slowed some shots down. I don't know, frankly, how he did it. He's quite talented, but stick with me right here. I want to show this comment from Joe Biden, because this is just quintessentially why I agree with Colonel Douglas McGregor. We need to hold early elections, and we need to demand Congress to do such. And we can do that constitutionally, and in our Declaration of Independence, it is very clear. Mel, I know we want to talk about your book at some point. Plug that, Americans Anonymous, because it's in our Declaration whenever we find our government not serving our interests. And right now we have a rogue government at war with us, but clearly we have a mushroom in the White House. And this is what the mushroom actually had to say.
But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. So far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do.
So what I can say about that is I have somebody I speak to who's connected to a very high-level military source inside DC, and they are telling my friend that Joe Biden sleeps 16 hours a day. Jill Biden is his wife, Dr. Jill, the elder abuse doc, is effectively running the country right now. So you dust him off, prop him up, juice him up, give him something to put in front of the camera and say something in a semi-coherent fashion. But this is just not what we can sustain a country right now. This is, at this point, America could be completely invaded. If countries wanted to take over, if China and Russia wanted to come get us, they could. I mean, I think it's very, if you look at what's happened to our military, we're disorganized, we're on our knees. I speak to people in the military all the time that are distraught about what's happening right now because they see the decimation from the clot shot. And the fact that our military has gone full woke, our leadership is broken. So, I mean, with 5th generation warfare, I don't know if General Flynn's title of his book is comprehensive enough. It might be 10th generation warfare with how many things they have coming at us. Thoughts on that before I bring Jovan in?
Pete?
I'm not going to unite. As a matter of fact, my immediate reaction to, well, we must denounce political violence. Well, you just put $50 billion worth of political violence on a pallet and gave it to President Putin / Zelensky. This guy is all about killing hundreds of thousands and millions of people, and he's in a political position to do so. He's the front face of that regime. I will not unite behind anything that man has. And him calling him Donald, he's the president. He needs to refer to, and we need to protect the presidency, folks. You could hate Gerald Ford. He was the president of the United States. And if you hate him so much, you just get him replaced and bring somebody else in. If you don't like Joe Biden, you replace him. If you don't like Donald Trump, you replace him. But if the will of the people is to put them forth, you accept that no matter what. They are incensed. They're not after Donald Trump. What they're going to do now, here's my final comment. They missed President Trump. They won't miss us. They're going to assassinate us. They're getting ready, and they already have killed millions of people. That's not a conspiracy theory. Over 1 million people died from the jab. It was a bioweapon. The CIA was involved in that. They've already done it. They have no qualms whatsoever about killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of us. So I won't unite behind that entity that has already killed a whole bunch of us.
Yeah. And we also have to keep in mind that they have done who is really running Ukraine, because they have already suspended elections. They're already in martial law. They're already in, and it is actually, the White House and I guess the UK that is running the show there with NATO. Well, they're showing us what they're doing in that country. And again, I have always said that they could likely use the responsibility to protect. And we have a lot of people, including Samantha Power, running the USAID money. and a lot of players in there. Susan Rice, God knows where she is in the background, all the lawfare people. You see them lately. Certainly the Weissmans and Eisens of the world are, defiant that they are going to put Trump in jail. They're going to find different ways, even when it looks like nothing will happen before the election. They can't stop. And, you have to look at the bigger picture. What is the bigger plan? What is the bigger picture? Why destroy America from within? Why liquidate our country? Why open our borders? Why do all this stuff? It's death by 1,000 cuts. And these people have done it before in other places. They're trying to do it here. And, but for the grace of God, did Donald Trump get up, and not just get up, but get up triumphant, get up and stand and fight. This wasn't what we saw from everyone, in the past. This was a man who was not willing to even stay on the ground and deal with what would happen to him. It was a man that stood up right away and reacted. And that is who the real Donald Trump is. And I think maybe for the first time, people that have been so blind or gaslit will see, oh my God, he's like a superhero. He like jumps up, right? I mean, it really, really was so powerful. His reaction was powerful. His reaction can never be taken back. It really was a game changer in my mind.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have the great Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, who I don't know, this guy does 2 broadcasts a day, 7 days a week. And I don't think he ever gets out of the chair. I think he's glued to his computer in his studio. And he's been relentless in election integrity and diving deep on that. Jovan, thank you so much. I was glued to your broadcast this morning because I was shocked at how much information you're able to compile. Did you sleep last night? That's the first question. No, I didn't think so. You took this very seriously, and this is a serious situation. So I'm going to step off the stage. I'm going to let you bring us up to speed. You've got the ability to screen share, I believe, if you want to.
Actually, I'm not able to roll in the videos. I can share just a basic screen, but if you enable me to roll in the videos, I can share some additional things.
Okay.
But yeah, let's just kind of start out with just a screen share, if we could. What I did was basically something called a geospatial analysis. Now, first, let me explain what this is. Anything that occurs when it has a geology marker, meaning a physical place that it took place,
right?
You have the ability to map it. And it is in the mapping of the data that you're able to really get a good idea of what happened, how it happened. So let me share something with you here. You should be able to see it on your screen, I hope. Yep. Are you able to see it on your screen? I don't see it on my screen. There you go.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Now, this is what's called geospatial data. And I'll show you a few of them as we go through it. But here is my issues with this. In anything in forensics or anything in analytics, you don't go in with a preconceived idea. You don't basically say, oh, this was set up by the CIA or whatever. You literally let the data speak to you first. And in allowing the data to speak to us first, the thing that becomes very glaring is how in the hell does a shooter get onto a rooftop that's one of the lower rooftops and be able to line up, climb up, set, go through position, and pull off shots before Secret Service, and in this case, it would be correct to say the police. This is the local and state police that actually had that responsibility versus the Secret Service. And pop off shots before anything happens. Now, to me, I went through this data and you look at it, you're looking on your screen here, you're looking at a shot that basically shows kind of where everything was triangulated. I don't know if you see the full screen there. Let me pop it up a little more. The red dot to your left is where the shooter was ostensibly located. Now, the white dot, the white line is the shot that kind of went through, and a better accurate one would be went through the left corner of the left bleachers, ended up through the right corner of the right bleachers, through the stage trying to hit President Trump, of which they did. Then if you look at the building with the white top, all these buildings were covered by local police. They're directly in the line of sight. And so the issue I have with all of this is 7 minutes before this event, 7 minutes and 23 seconds before the pulling of the trigger the first time, The local officers, whatever you want to call them, whether they be stadies or whether they be Pennsylvania police, were already glassing the area and the building. That's number one.
What does that mean, glassing the area?
They were already in high detail and binoculars and other equipment. They're already checking out the area where the shooter was, right? They're already surveilling it, etc. And so they have a pretty good idea of what's there or what should be there or shouldn't be there already in this process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're watching. We know that the first report of an active shooter might have come about 4.5 minutes before the actual pulling of the trigger. Now, this is kind of where I begin to have problems, because you have to understand how these fields are surveilled. I'm going to pull up another one. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to just talk protocol, because in my mind, and that's the program I did this morning, I don't think this was a failure of protocol. I believe this was allowed to happen, and let me explain why. As you're looking at this photo, and you'll see this is about where President Trump was standing. Immediately behind President Trump are those three buildings. Directly south in the photo, it's a little hard to see with the banner, but south in the photo, you actually have a pond. So when you're setting up security for this area, that's good, because nobody's going to run through this pond to get to the president. You actually got basically a channel or a kill channel between the building and the pond, so that's easily covered. And then you got the buildings behind President Trump. But what happened is they left this whole area open. Now, I want to call your attention to the top right part of the photo, right there where you see the yellow Liberty Centric. That's a water tower.
Okay.
That water tower is and should be of most critical interest when it comes to protecting the president, because it's the highest position there is. And you work from the higher position down, especially when everybody's supposedly being metal detected. Now, the second highest position from that tower, just right adjacent to it where you see the red, that's where the shooter was. These are under standard observation. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share you just a different one so you get a little different look. This is all standard protocol stuff. I'm talking standard protocol. Now, when it comes to presidential coverage, when you have people on the ground saying, hey, you got a bear crawling up the building and across the building. Now, what that means is you've got somebody about to attack, like a crawl attack. And they already said this guy has a gun, he has a rifle, and he's crawling up on the building. And so I changed the angle on you just a little bit here so you can see some of the things. You see the pond and you see the buildings. And so you got a very narrow channel there, and that was protected. And that's where the tents and some of the other stuff was. But why they would leave the far right, anywhere on the far right unprotected, makes no sense, because this is exactly where they're surveying. In fact, the white roof you see just behind the green square, which is the relative location of President Trump, the white roof where these SWAT teams were located, and I'm just going to call them SWAT for shortcut, is higher than where the shooter was and or shot from. And he's within 200 yards, basically. Most of the time when President Trump is out, you're going out a half a mile, if not more. So I look here and I'm trying to figure out, why would a shooter be able to take a shot and have it be sub 200 yards and it not be covered? And so here's the philosophy when you start using this, when you just look at the facts, forget all conspiracy theories. What do the facts tell you, and how do you arrive at some sort of decision of, okay, what really happened? And this is where coincidences become part of the investigative clues, because what happens when you have a whole group of massive coincidences that alone just look strange, but when they all point to the same effect, they all get to the same effect, meaning allowed this circumstance to happen. What you have is the preponderance, the abundance of coincidences then in fact become the confirming evidence you have. So let's just kind of tick them off here. A week prior, you had our mail order selected, not elected one, basically call for putting President Trump in the bullseye, or a referral to the crosshairs. That went unaddressed by the media. You had all of these other threats. Now, at the same time that Biden is saying we need to put President Trump in the bullseye and we need to target him, multiple things, telling his high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals that he was raising money with, this comment came out, combined with the same fact that you've got about a dozen Democrats proposing a bill saying President Trump is a criminal and they want to remove all Secret Service protection of him. And then you have Mayorkas, which should have been gone already. You have him repeatedly denying President Trump additional special service or Secret Service coverage that President Trump and the team are asking for. Now, put a pin in that for a minute. Now let's look at where this occurred. This occurred in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania and Trump is hostile territory. We were very close to doing a full forensic audit like we did in Arizona and Pennsylvania. It all got cratered and crashed for a combination of reasons. One of the reasons, though, were the rhinos on the ground in Pennsylvania promising it will get done, while the chatter underneath is they're just placating voters. It's never going to get done. And in fact, it never got done. And then if you look at what happened in 2020 in an attempt, which happened, to keep President Trump out of office, with their mass deluge of mail-in ballots, in their particular machines that they special ordered to open all these envelopes, there's a system you can send it through. It blasts the envelopes through and it takes off just a little bitty bit of the envelope, so that by the time the person gets it, they reach in and they just pull the ballot out. Well, we got both information and talked to the providers. Somebody for the 2020 election recalibrated that machine, and they recalibrated it by 1/8. It took somebody that knew how that machine worked. What that did is when those envelopes went through, it cut off 1/8, which means it took each ballot and it made it be 3 parts, because it took the double fold, it cut right where it needed to be, and now the ballots came out in parts. Well, that means that that is a ballot that has to be spoiled, meaning somebody is supposed to faithfully duplicate that ballot. Well, that process in Pennsylvania and multiple places was unsupervised, even though there is footage of people just willy-nilly filling out ballots just in the same place and not even looking at the ones that were shredded. When you combine those particular things with the fact that you've got Mr. Shapiro there as the governor, and as part of this acceleration of this plan, Shapiro signed an executive order to put his state into one of the states that is motor voter compliant. He forced it through executive order. That basically means that when the illegals were coming in, and Pennsylvania gets a ton of them, they get bused there. When they come in, they have to get ID for driver's license or driver's license. They're immediately added to the voter rolls. They immediately get registered, and in fact, they get a voter registration card. They streamlined that process. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the illegals are voting. It means somebody knows where all these ballots are going. Now, let's go back to the scene. We've got all this prep. We've got a governor. The governor is responsible for this. This is not just a Secret Service centric thing. This is a Pennsylvania event. It is through the support and triage of Pennsylvania, staties, police, etc. They're all the support forces. So think of Secret Service. If they come in, they scout the area, they approve it. Secret Service in that photo I showed you is about this much of the equation. The staties and everything else are the outer equation. So the questions I have are the following. Number one, who approved that? Number two is when you have minutes for response teams that are used to responding in seconds, why didn't we see an immediate triage when you've got multiple people on the ground pointing out a shooter, saying you've got a guy that went up the side of the building, between the buildings, went up the side of the building, and now he's crawling across the top. I showed video footage of every bit of this. police running around on the ground. Now, granted, we don't know what their chatter is. Why did they not immediately stop that event and remove President Trump from the main stage? Then, when you understand that they had already been observing the shooter, literally, again, we'll just call them SWAT, the SWAT team on the building is looking at this shooter, observing him. And you can see in this, as they're watching him, it is said that he took almost 3 minutes to set up. Now, what that means is he came up on the building, he crawled along the building to get into position, he laid completely down, he raised his rifle, he sights it in, okay? He sights it in, and he's trying to get the best possible angle he can. And they're watching him the whole time. Now, standard protocol would be in any Secret Service, you're not waiting for permission to shoot. Police would, but not Secret Service or otherwise. When you see that person comes into that scene that poses a threat, you immediately take them out. So who in the hell assigned police to this? And when you have the police watching, then they allow multiple shots to occur. They themselves ducked. We're talking the team that's supposed to protect the president from the roof. They're ducking because it shocked them. I don't believe it shocked them. To me, what was going on is somebody was waiting for the shooter to shoot, allowed the shooter to shoot, and then took him out. Now, if you look at the audio signature of the shots, which we have, the audio signature of the shots basically shows a very interesting cadence. It shows a single shot and then 2 double repeats and then the rest of the volleys that come after it. To me, that means that possibly one person shot, and maybe they had this kid in there. We're supposed to believe this was a 20-year-old kid with a 22 rifle is what we're supposed to believe here. It may have been dressed up like an AR, but the reports are saying it's a 22. That's just not plausible. It's also not plausible to squeeze off what might be as many as 5 shots, some are saying 7, before there's a tactical response to it. We have all of this on video. You can clearly see it. People calling him out. He's there. They go, oh my God, he's got a gun. Look at, he shoots first. To me, somebody set this up and somebody told them to stand down or didn't give them the authorization. Some people are saying that they're trying to push it to the Secret Service, saying the Secret Service told them that they don't have to stand down or to stand down and not respond. That's against protocol. You see a person with a rifle, you take them out. So when you look at all of these independent factors, every one of them, you just look at them independently. And you can you know they're failures in protocol, but when you combine them all together, you get the bullseye. You get everything around it that any one of them leads to the compromise of this event. Therefore, I don't believe at all they're coincidences. It is the preponderance of all these coincidences that are perfectly timed to be the concluding proof that they let this happen.
Yeah. Incredible analysis, Jovan. Really, really good. I want to get Pete's response to that. And we've got Brandon Howse also in the digital green room. I want to bring him in. So I'm going to pull a couple back, but I want to get Pete's response to this before we bring in Brandon to get his thoughts on all this. Pete, what are your thoughts? Being a Marine?
As always, outstanding work. As a matter of fact, I've got, I was looking at a Google, as many Google Earth ground side images. I wanted to see the view of that building as a manufacturing facility.
Right.
I wanted to plot the distance. Now, I'm a former United States Marine, but I was in aviation ordnance. But aviation side, I have full knowledge of weapons. Now, with my legal experience, I also have deep knowledge on how the U.S. government, federal agents, set up sniper teams. And this is what they do. They always have a spotter. Because the glassing that you were referring to, the binoculars, the spotter will identify. And the Secret Service has some pretty sophisticated technology where they can pinpoint with coordinates. Now, normally sniper teams will have a piece of a pie. They'll divvy up sections in full view of the president. And if there's 4 sniper teams, they've got 4 pieces of their pie. And they do not remove their eyes from that area. The spotter is scanning the area. When he says shooter at, and he'll give coordinates, however they communicate that, That, just like you said, that sniper doesn't need any permission. We're talking about a millisecond. He targets and pops off around. If he sees a weapon, that trigger pull happens, and it needs to be almost instinctual. I practiced that. A hesitation, number one, to take out what was known to be. I mean, they had to have had. I want to hear the radio traffic on the ground, because as soon as the call goes out, we've got a shooter on the roof. The president's evacuated immediately. Why was he not evacuated? A. B. Why you had that spotter on the roof right next to the sniper, right? You got Overwatch and then your spotter. Those two are working together. He looked away from his glass, from his optics for a second. Why did he do that before he pulled off around?
I told people that tells me that the second right answer sometimes is the right answer. You can feel that hesitation where they can say, this is what I'm seeing, but I don't believe it's it.
Mm-mm.
I believe that look is, why hasn't he shot yet?
Yes. Now you said, and I want to ask the question because I'm interested to know, as to protocol is concerned, right? Protocol would be Secret Service procedures. They're probably not going to disclose it publicly, but I do know that those snipers with beyond presidential details, Dan Bongino knows this as well, is that those snipers have shoot to kill orders. As soon as the president is out in public view, there is zero hesitation. You take that shot off. And if you hesitated, he's going to be fired.
Right.
But what you say that it's not a failure of protocol. Protocol would be that he should have gotten the round off. Correct?
He should have never. Yeah, he should have gotten a round off, which didn't happen. And look, I'm going to show you one other. Let me show you a few series of photos here that may help some of this become clear.
My question is genuine, but the protocol would be if you know that there's a sniper on a roof,
you take him out.
Would you? You take him out, but would
you take him out instantly? You pull the trigger.
The president should have been taken away. There were minutes.
Those are two actions that should have happened. The president should have been taken away even before that guy was on the roof, because they identified him going between buildings, trying to access the roof, carrying a long rifle. At that moment, the president should have been removed from the stage. That didn't happen.
One final thing, I'm hearing lots of word. Dan Bongino said this. He's got inside knowledge. Is that they have Secret Service on a skeleton crew with President Trump. That right there should cause the resignation of the Secret Service leader.
Well, that's why I said Secret Service was this, and a small circle around Trump. That was Secret Service. This other response was not.
All right, I want to bring up Brannon Howse on, so I'm just going to put me and I'm going to put Mel and Pete in the green room.
And I've got a few photos to show you some of these things, so you show how egregious this failure is.
Before Brannon comes on, just one quick point of clarification.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes we have limited time, so I have to condense my long-windedness. And I said my emotional response to the event was like everybody else's was. You have an emotional response. Fortunately, my composure contains my emotions, and I'm not going to act out. I get emotional, and I suggest that everybody else do that. Keep yourself calm. Don't respond to your emotions. They want to provoke that. So in no way, shape, or form, when I said I wanted to go out and shoot communists, nor would I ever do that. That was trying to describe the emotion I felt. A. B. We do not want to do anything unlawful. Nothing. As a matter of fact, if we need a permit to go protest at Fort Washington, Maryland, let's get a permit. Let's protest. So let's not break the law. There's the point of clarification. And 100%. Don't act out.
100%. So joining us now from Worldview Tube tonight, Brannon Howse. Brannon, you ran an amazing impromptu broadcast literally minutes after the assassination attempt of President Trump last night. And you brought on Colonel Rob Maness, Pete, myself. It was a great broadcast.
Roger Stone,
exactly.
Leo Holman.
Yeah, Leo Holman, what a fantastic
David Pine.
Yep, you had an amazing lineup, and we will hopefully hear from Roger later. Alex Jones and LARA Logan are supposed to join us in about another 20 minutes here. What are your current thoughts? What are you hearing now? You know, because you're still able to keep track of stuff while we're managing a broadcast here. What's the latest?
And thanks again for being on with us last night, everybody that was there. We did pull it off very, very quickly. And we're getting a lot of emails and texts today, people saying that they were monitoring the national outlets and then watching us. and they were commenting on how ahead of the curve we were, number one, but B, we were trying to be accurate, report what we know to be fact, and what we didn't know to be fact, we were saying that. But how far ahead of the curve we were, and also how many of the things we reported on that have now turned out to be factual were not even being said last night. We were one of the first groups to start broadcasting that BBC report where the guy was seeing this man up on there and giving a 3 to 4 minute notice, and no one was doing anything. One of the first things I would ask is, can we please identify the police officers that were down on the ground that people were trying to communicate with? I think the public has a right to know who were those officers, because here's why I'm asking that. I want to know if they really were officers. I'm not saying they weren't. I just know that from my years of studying the JFK situation, there were multiple reports of guys in uniform that turned out later to not be identifiable. They were gone. They vanished. I want to know who these guys on the ground were that they were talking to. So tell us and show us the names, hold a press conference with these men that were identified as being police or Secret Service that the public was talking to. I'd like to know, can you find those guys? Can you put them in front of the crowd, in front of a journalist? And that would include the real journalists today, which is people like on this panel, not the fake Mockingbird propaganda mouthpieces. So show us these are legitimate people with years of service. Show us their resume, not that they're individuals who now nobody can find. Because I'm questioning, were they really talking to real police officers? Because wouldn't real police officers and real agents respond immediately? So how do we know those were not CIA or intel guys that were dressed up as police officers who were not? I'm not saying they are. I'm not making statements. I'm asking questions. That's number one. Number two, I think Eric Prince has just put out an extremely important statement today at 12:22 p.m. And I want to read it in its entirety, if that's all right, Ann.
Go right ahead.
Eric Prince, who used to oversee I think everybody knows Eric Prince used to oversee a company that came under a lot of controversy for work in the Middle East. Like, of course, when people do their job, special forces who did their job, many of our special forces found themselves being prosecuted because they actually shot back and did their job. So Eric, of course, has come under a lot of attack as the media is apt to do when people are contractors. And I think he had a company that did that. But regardless, he has a background in this. Here's what Eric Prince put out. Quote, hopefully after the tragedy yesterday in Butler, Pennsylvania, we can all recognize that an unaccountable, bloated bureaucracies continue to fail us as Americans. Donald J. Trump is alive today solely due to a bad, listen to this, folks, bad wind estimate by an evil would-be assassin. As the graphics show, the full value wind of just 5 miles per hour was enough to displace the unconfirmed but likely light 55 grain bullet 2 inches from DJT's intended forehead to his ear. DJT was not saved by the United States Secret Service brilliance. And I want to get that on the record too. I'm tired of hearing everybody talk about this guy's a hero. You know what? A hero is someone who takes out the sniper, not someone who watches the sniper. And then reportedly what we hear now is got off shots and then they take him out. That's not a hero. Okay. A hero is not them jumping on DJT after he took himself down. Donald Trump saved himself. More importantly, God saved Donald Trump. God saved Donald Trump, and God gave Donald Trump, like we all have, adrenaline and reaction. Donald Trump was his own best security yesterday when he hit the deck. Okay. The Secret Service just piled on afterwards, along with a bunch of silly looking women. And I'm sorry, these silly looking three Secret Service agents, go watch their footage. They look silly. They look out of place. The one can't even seem to find her holster and then decides, I'll just hold the gun since I can't find my holster. You know what? I'm told by experts this morning, getting that gun back in that holster should be immediate and muscle memory. And I'm not an expert in this field, but the muscle memory should have been there from what I'm told. And if it's not, that's a lack of training. And this
she failed her situational test. I don't know if you saw that story come out, Brandon, but in her situational test, being able to assess where is the enemy, what's going on, and what do I defend, She failed, but they still passed her through anyway.
Well, that's the DEI, I guess, of the head of the Secret Service. It wants 30% women by 2030. So I want to know, when do those women come onto his detail? We should have a right to see what Jovan just stated, their full record. How long have they been on? What is their target practice? What does their paper look like in the target practice? You know, because these women look like completely like fish out of water. They do not look like the men. A lot of the men, again, you can see seem to be responding in a much quicker way and more fluid and response of years of practice. So I'd like to know everybody's line. How long was every one of those people, men and women? What was their precision like? What are their skills tests like? What's their background? How long have they been in this situation and with DJT or with a former high-level individual? I want to know, did he have the best and the brightest with him? But let's go back to what Eric Prince was saying. As the graphics show, the full value wind of just 5 miles per hour is enough to displace the unconfirmed but likely light 55 grain bullet 2 inches from DJT's intended forehead to his ear. DJT was not saved by the United States Secret Service brilliance. The fact that the United States Secret Service allowed a rifle-armed shooter within 150 yards to be a pre-planned event is either malice or massive incompetence. I want to stop there again. I don't know if you have the footage or the graphic I text you and that we were all sitting around each other today, but are you telling me the Secret Service doesn't do a drone snapshot of the premises before everything is signed off on? Because if you do a drone snapshot, you can see that stage is not protected from those buildings. That is where you bring in the cargo containers and stack them too high. How many of us have been to events where we see cargo containers stacked too high? You know, two of them stacked. So there is a barrier and a wall where no shot can get through. Why did we not see that? In this day and age, in this climate, we do know, by the way, that apparently Muslim Brotherhood, or I should say Hamas or Hezbollah, no, let me correct that, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Islamic Revolutionary Guard, they have been putting out stuff about Trump, and I want to make sure I correct that. It's Iranian Revolutionary Guard or Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They have been putting out drone videos since a year ago, I think this past February, of what was, and we showed it on the air from their own social media feed, what looked like Donald Trump golfing, okay? We know that Mike Pompeo, we know that the other guy that was on the administration, what's his name, the lackey that we all none of us care for anymore. What's that dude's name?
Which one?
Yeah, which I was just going to say, my head is reeling. By the way, Roger Stone is on deck. He'll be joining us here momentarily. I see his video feed coming in.
Mike Pompeo and what's his name? Baldwin or
Bolton?
John Bolton. I think John Bolton and Pompeo have had to have had extra Secret Service out of the administration. Okay, so if you know that you have a regime that is going after Trump, Bolton, Pompeo, why did they not have 2 stacked up cargo containers around that entire premises? So let me go back to Eric Prince before you go to Stone. So he says this is a failure. Clearly, there was an adequate, uncontrolled dead space for a shooter to move into position and take multiple aim shots. Watching the newsreel one can hear how proximate the shooter is by the very short time lapse between the crack of arriving bullet, supersonic, to the boom of muzzle blast, sonic. The law enforcement sniper, unclear if United States Secret Service, but if we zoomed up on his badge, it says police really big, but under it says U.S. Secret Service. Clear newsreels was clearly overwhelmed. He was clearly overwhelmed as his face came off his rifle instead of doing his job to kill the shooter. Clearly, they were watching the shooter, but apparently have no first shot policy. They have he says they have a no shoot first policy, apparently. But by one,
I got to say, that's the dumbest thing ever. If somebody shows up to a Trump rally with a gun, you got to assume they're there not to, to take out the president. There's a no gun rule. Like that's why.
If that's the policy now, the policy has been changed since Trump was in office.
Unbelievable.
Here, Eric says, in my old business of providing diplomatic security in 2 active war zones, we are expected to execute the basics or we would be fired. Clearly, United States Secret Service failed at the basics of a secure perimeter, and once shots were fired, their extraction was clumsy and left DJT highly exposed to follow-on attacks. It looked like they had never drilled together because those responses should be effectively automatic. Will there be accountability? That's not the Washington way. Unserious and unworthy people in positions of authority got us to this near disaster. Merit and execution must be the only deciding factors in hiring and leadership, not the social engineering priorities of today. Sadly, nothing in Washington reflects that any longer. DJT is right to question the competence of those protecting him because yesterday they failed in almost every way.
Incredible. We've got Roger here. I think, Roger, if you can hear us, come on camera. We see your shot set up and ready to go. Just got to get you to come in and comment because I know your time is limited. He's been back to back to back. I think he said he was sitting in for Lou Dobbs, who's out sick today. So hopefully he'll take a comment. Mel, I know you've been listening to this. I want your feedback on what Brannon was just talking about with Eric Prince's comments.
Well, I think we have to be really aware that the people that are supposedly investigating this, and of course, I guess they're calling to talk to any of the witnesses right now, that they that we won't really see any of that. I think Roger's trying to come in.
Yeah, no, he is. He hasn't sat down yet. He'll be stepping up here just shortly. Keep going, hon.
Well, I just also think that we've never had accountability for any of the crimes committed by any of the people in the background here. And frankly, at this point, people, I believe that they can get away with anything. But everything that's coming out right now is just really a testament to where we are in this country and that people are picking sides. I just saw that CNN had on James Clapper, of all people, somebody who was fully involved in everything from the beginning, from Crossfire Hurricane before, and has been, out there bashing Trump. He's now saying that there might be a foreign angle. I mean, how long was it going to take until they started saying maybe Russia was involved here or a foreign angle? But they're already going there on CNN. We have David Frum, one of the big Russia hoax promoters, already putting out an article in the Atlantic that violence has come to visit the would-be dictator that preaches violence. I mean, this is already coming this morning. Stephanopoulos on this morning with CNN as well, talking about the same thing, and what's the foreign angle? I mean, this is where they're going. They're going exactly to what we would expect. The same old Crossfire Hurricane team running their cover up, their sideshow. And frankly, I don't even, it has to be an independent investigation because at this point, we don't even have any faith in the FBI. And now I see that there's FBI agents that are putting up memes even. Basically, one of them, an FBI agent put up a meme that it was so close. I mean, how can we have an FBI functioning that has people on their team that would say such a thing and get away with it publicly?
Yeah. You can't have a functioning FBI. It's actually, well, they're functioning, but they're not functioning for we the people. While Roger said he was having trouble getting his camera working on his computer, he's going to come in by cell phone. Alex Jones looks like he has just joined us. So I'm going to just take a few people, put you guys back in the green room. You will be able to hear. I want to give Alex the stage right now because he put out a blistering. I played that clip at the open of the show. Really, Alex has been at the forefront of warning about globalism going back even before you, Mel. You've been a big voice out there, but he's been talking about this, and he's talking about the very dangerous times we're living in. This is not a surprise. They took an open attempt to assassinate President Trump on the world stage for everyone to see. And for those that follow Simone Gold, she was in Times Square yesterday, and at the very moment she went live, and she was in a restaurant where you could see all of the jumbotrons in Times Square, and not one was carrying the story that they just tried to assassinate a former president who's currently the front-running political candidate for presidency. Absolutely astonishing. Let me see if we can bring Alex in. And
he needs 5 minutes.
He needs 5 minutes. All right,
Yes.
We'll just hang out then. Thank you so much. All right, that was Alex's producer, but this is really shocking just how complicit the mainstream media has been in all of this from the get-go, even before President Trump was elected. I think we're just now understanding what fake news really is. I don't think the majority of the world, frankly, understood it.
There's something that tells me, and that we're not seeing the full story. If you want to show the screen, let me just show you something really quick because there are major disconnects on this. This shooter was observed. He's right there. That's even before getting ready to shoot. That should not happen. Let me show you another one. It should change here. Sharing the screen. Go back to this one. There are so many disconnects with protocol. First, let me show you the shot. Here's the shot. And the shot has a signature. You can see it just like a fingerprint. And so you're seeing the first shot and then the timed double tap and then the time between. That's an eternity in between response. That's an absolute eternity. However, the subsequent shots which they're attributing to the shooter, for some reason, aren't displaying the same signature. They have their own signatures. It's not displaying the same signature. So I have a question about that I think we need to get to the bottom of. And you don't, when a shooter is going to do something like this, unless they're a walk-up shooter, Hinckley type of thing, this is really not really obvious stuff if they're going to plan this from afar and just take it. Let's say if they're going to leave this whole thing open. But when you look at the team that was the response on top, they had eyes on the whole time. He's got his shot caller next to him, right? His shot caller is what makes the adjustments for him. There is no reason why this person, and I still can't confirm it's Secret Service, but there is no reason why this person bobbed up from his scope to try to look at his secondary scope. That's right at the beginning. You see it on the top of his scope, the little brown thing. When he's got his shot caller there that's drilled down on it, there is no reason. That hesitation, which we played in slow motion over and over, and in fact, we showed 40 some odd seconds before the shots over President Trump's shoulder. You can see them scoping and drawing down on the shooter 40 some odd seconds before it occurs.
That's right.
Something went horribly wrong here. And none of this should have come out this way. None of it should have been done this way. We're missing something. We're still missing something. We're not getting the full story. But they served this shooter up to us. They served it up.
This has been the deep state playbook since as far back as I can remember. Somebody who I know to be an expert on the deep state playbook has just arrived. Let me bring Alex Jones on. Or he was just there. He should be walking up here momentarily. Jovan, when we go back and we look historically over and over again, they've always had, it's the Hegelian dialect, whether it's, the problem and the solution. And you can apply that playbook across everything the deep state has been doing to us since day one to maintain control of the United States of America for their own, United States dollar hegemony war machine so that they can do what they do. And to that point, Alex Jones, you are an expert on the globalists, and you put out a warning yesterday. I aired it when I first opened the show. Thank you for joining us. This assassination attempt is something you, Roger Stone, Tucker Carlson, and others have been, screaming about for some time. And voila, we finally saw it. So is it game on? Is this where we now really engage?
I want to be 100% clear because I've been here for 15 minutes listening to you while we were getting set up. I had come to Northern California to cover where the Republican establishment meets secretly for over 100 years, going back to Taft, and to cover the Bohemian Grove. And we did have, with the group we're working with, that had told us they were going to do it, seen the footage now of just an amazing infiltration of Bohemian Grove. Last night, they arrested 2 of the people of a 20-person team that I didn't run or control, but had told me in the last week they were going to go in. And the reason I raised that is they had worked there for weeks. Every July for a month, world leaders, particularly so-called conservatives, meet at this Skull and Bones event for adults. Skull and Bones at Yale is just a feeder into the same group. And they said that massive hatred of Trump by the most important private Republican establishment, and that they were very, very sad that he was not killed yesterday. They said basically universal hatred of President Trump, again, at the 2,700-acre Redwood Grove on the Russian River here in Sonoma, California, right outside Sonoma. And so that's really a big deal. The Republican response was that they just hate Trump's guts. So he's at a populist level gotten Republican voters to support him, but he still doesn't have the Republican Party establishment, which is a good thing that they hate him. It shows how real he is. But why the establishment's so unified. So let me just go back to the first point then. So you know where we are, and I'm breaking that here, that we're here to cover Bohemian Grove, and we'll be working with these folks to release footage tonight because it's dangerous to have the footage of these occultic rituals they do until it's on the air. So there's that. But going back to Trump, a quarter inch, it would have hit him right in the temple and would have obviously either gone to the brain or deflected off. But he came a quarter inch from being killed. It is the hand of God. I've interviewed many Secret Service agents over the years. I know the default training. I called some of my sources in the Secret Service and in SWAT teams, and of course also in FBI hostage rescue team. And they said 100% that it is the default, even if they don't have a lot of Secret Service, that they get the local police on every roof. If there was a water tower a half mile away, the default would be to have someone stationed there to make sure no one was on the tower. They would have all the high points covered by having people on top of it, but also there with snipers aimed at it. We had these 4-building complex with 450 feet from the president's podium there in Pennsylvania, and nothing was done. So this is not a failure of security. This is not a lapse in security. This is not a catastrophic failure. This was clearly premeditated. Default, whoever was in charge was told to the default, do not cover the rooftops, when that is the number one place shooters always attack. So this is over the top evil. But what I really want to hit for everybody, I want to be 100% clear that I'm not sensationalist about this. I tell people what I really, with all the evidence, see, with thousands of historical data points going into this. We're all talking about, did they stand down? They did. This was bare minimum, them opening the door for this to happen. Just like they won't give RFK any security, any Secret Service, even though his father and uncle were famously both murdered by the deep state. So this is administrative, deliberate negligence, bare minimum, not debatable. Then you have the stand down of not being on top of the roofs, 450 feet away, totally over the top insane, not negligence, default, not following their standard procedure. It's like not putting gas in your car or not turning the engine on and hitting start thinking you're going to drive down the road. It's like having a newborn baby and throwing it in the pool and saying, oh, it should learn how to swim. It's not negligence if you throw your newborn baby in the pool. It's murder one, premeditated. Right. So that said, let me now say this. They are going to go for broke, the deep state, the Republican Democrat establishment. Kennedy announced 100,000 U.S. troops were going to be pulled out of Vietnam. They were already on the ships and airplanes coming back. He was going to pull them all out within 1 year with 500,000 troops. He was killed in Dallas, Texas. His head was blown off in Dealey Plaza in 1963. Trump has said, I will pull the U.S. military out. We will cut the aid. We will end this war. We will get a deal done day one. And so they tried to kill him because it's about global strategy for the New World Order that controls this country. So I'm going to say this now, and I don't say this with relish or pleasure. I say it to get ahead of it so we can stop it. They aren't just going to try to shoot him at the next rally. And they know Trump has got such will that he will go out and do rallies, I believe, even though I'm advising him and others are to go into a bunker, basically. People will understand, because we don't want our king out there on the front line, even ahead of the pawns. He needs to be back protected, with the Republic, okay, until he gets into office. So not just the 113 days, the election, but the 79 days after that, when he's president-elect, is when the deep state's already said they're going to trigger civil unrest. They're going to call it civil war and try to burn the country down, and then ahead of him getting in. So there's that. But let me tell you what, if I was the globalists and I get in their heads, that's what I do. This is what they're going to do. And I'm saying it right now. And by saying this, they need to block streets off. They need to get people to move out of the area, or Trump needs to move to one of his golf courses so he doesn't bother the neighbors, and he needs to shut it down. They need barricades on the roads. He needs to be in a fortified position. He can go give speeches, but it's got to be in ballrooms to smaller vetted groups. And because they're going to roll a truck full of plastic explosives into Mar-a-Lago. Okay. That's what they're going to do. They probably got the truck loaded right now with 5,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, they'll claim it as, but plastic explosives. They're going to roll that into Mar-a-Lago, guaranteed. The truck's loaded. Okay. I see it. I know it. Okay. They're going to roll a truck bomb in and claim the Russians did it. Who knows? And use that to declare martial law, trigger a bunch of bombings against leftist targets, claim right-wingers did it. We don't want any violence. The answer is being cool cucumbers right now. So if he goes out in public, they're going to try to shoot him. They've got operatives inside his organization. They're going to be trying to poison him. I know Trump's already aware of that. He's very careful. And they are going to try to truck bomb the president. They also have remote controls on all. Yeah, they have remote controls on all the new aircraft. They could remote control an airplane into Mar-a-Lago. Trump needs to be in a bunker, and then he needs to make decisions strategically, maybe once a week, where he's going to go, what he's going to do, and then he's got to call the shots instantly and do it. He can't give the enemy any lead time. And I'll say this, he cannot go to these fake trials. Thank God those are all being postponed. That's why everything they've done has failed. They are going to kill him, okay? They have nothing left to do. They are desperate. Now that he's got even more support, it's over for them. This is the end of this globalist regime. We're not going to some utopia, but this is like the Death Star being blown up.
That's right.
And Emperor Palpatine being thrown down the reactor shaft all in one. Okay, this is like both Death Stars getting blown up at the same time. They are on their heels, and they have no moves left but to go for the king. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you now, they're going to truck bomb Mar-a-Lago. Watch it happen.
Wow. This is really an unbelievable incantation of your predictions, Alex. And you know, I've met you a couple of times. I've been on your show, had the pleasure. You're incredibly gracious, but you have been right about everything. And I mean everything. So it is really just daunting to hear you make this prediction. Lara Logan just joined us. I'm going to get off the stage here. I'd like Laura and you and Mel to kind of carry on a conversation, and I'm going to remove myself because I'd like to hear what Laura's response is to this, and then have Mel chime in.
Thank you so much. And well, there's a number of things. Of course, I woke up this morning still sort of reeling in shock, replaying the events of the night before. Not because it was unexpected, like as Alex and Tucker Carlson and others pointed out. It is really a measure of the end of the road, right? This is where you go as an act of desperation. This is not done from a position of strength. When you know that you have this under control, you don't have to resort to such an extreme measure. So that's the first real indicator. If people were to take anything away from this, if they were to be sort of encouraged by what we see, it's the ultimate admission that there was no way to stop Trump at the ballot box. I mean, that's really what it is, right? And that's because, as you've seen, I mean, as we know, right? Because we cover this and we look at this stuff. There is no demographic in America today that is not does not have an increase in support for Trump. It doesn't matter if you look at women, educated women, blue collar workers, minorities. It doesn't matter. There isn't a group in this country that doesn't show very, very high levels of support at this point for Trump, especially compared to the past. And the tactics that we've seen used before are no longer working. And I think that's one of the really significant things for people to look at now. This is a real opportunity. Since we are in an information war, and the primary battleground is the war for your mind, right? Then this is an opportunity for us all to become well-versed in these tactics, because you're now seeing many of these tactics in play at the same time. So what am I talking about? Well, for example, 1 minute there was a picture of one guy and they said this was the shooter. Then there was a picture of someone else they said was the shooter. I've seen so many different names reported for the shooter. So this is an example of how it's a tactic in information warfare called dilution, right? Where they are diluting the truth so that you do not know what to believe. Also, it's a tactic where they can get people to discredit each other and discredit themselves.
It's called smoke. It's called smoke screening. You're absolutely right. They're creating a smoke screen.
and it's ambiguity increasing, right, Alex? They want the ambiguity increasing, so people want. What's the benefit of doing that? Well, number one, it prevents people from seeing the truth, but number two, it allows those who are responsible for certain things to have cover, and number three, it prevents people who don't know the truth can't ask the right questions, right? They struggle, and then if you get distracted by other stuff, then you're asking questions that really don't matter. So if you look at this situation, the questions that really matter, that are truly significant, are not so much about the Secret Service team on the ground that day, right? That is important, but even more important is, what about the advanced Secret Service team? Because if you were to think about what set the conditions to make this happen, it would be rooted
Exactly.
in the advanced Secret Service
You're
detail.
totally on target. Whoever gave the order to not put Secret Service on buildings 450 feet away did that deliberately. Okay. That's like pouring gasoline on somebody and lighting it. I mean, this is not an accident. You're dead on. And so, Mike, you just said it. They are so desperate. I'm asking you because I really respect your mind on this. The system is totally desperate. The only card they have left is killing Trump now. And even that's going to blow up in their face. Do you agree with me? And I know Trump is a tough guy. He's got ice water in his veins. The word is he's going to go back on the road. I think that is not a smart move. And I think everyone's going to understand if he gets bunkered in. I mean, look, they need 50 cal rifles, machine fed at the gates of Mar-a-Lago. They need barriers, a quarter mile away, because I'm telling you, folks, I can just see it in my mind's eye that this coup is ongoing. It's failing. We're slowly taking America back. We've psychologically freed the country from the globalists. You're right. All the liberals I know, trendies. I'm here in Northern California. Everybody's like saluting me and going to gas stations. Black people, white people, Muslims are just, we love Trump. We love Trump. It's literally everywhere. And so the system has screwed up. They have blown it. And so now what do they have left? And it is going to be false flags, crises. I mean, look, I'm not a drug user, but I'll be completely honest. In high school, I took methamphetamines 2 or 3 times, got super sick. It was horrible. A few times on long trips, with the military, whatever, they say, hey, take one of these Adderalls, it'll keep you up. I've taken Adderall probably 15 times. It makes me sick. I don't like it. Last night and this morning, I couldn't sleep. I feel like I'm on 5 tablets of Adderall because at a gut level, my brain is lined up. And I know that we are in grave danger, folks. I've never had my spider sense this concerned, except when they were trying to raid us 5 weeks ago and trying to shut us down. And I said to Laura then, I said, they're about to kill Trump. You remember me saying that in the green room? Remember me saying that on air?
I do.
So I felt this coming, and I'm telling people, my firstborn son almost died when he was born. And I had a sick feeling like this when he was in ICU for 5 days. And then he bounced back, and he's great today. I had this same sick feeling then. I told you this in person because I felt so embarrassed. You're an amazing person. I've idolized you for many years. You're incredible. And I couldn't even really talk to you because I was so sick with this.
You were very
this
sick,
happened when my son almost died. It happened when they tried to shut the building down without a court order. And I said, it isn't about shutting me down. They're getting ready to kill Trump. They want me off the air when this happens. And then now I feel sick like that again. And folks, I'm telling you this, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. This is so, and I want to ask Laura, I want to ask all your people, what do we do to get people to understand how serious this is? That's why Forbes, came out and said, oh, it was just an incident, no big deal last night. They're literally playing it down because it failed, because they don't want us to take it serious, because they're about to do it again. And I'm telling you, they are going to try to kill Trump probably this week. I mean, and again, because they can't get guns up close, truck bombs. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, Alex, it is interesting that you say that. I will say that every law enforcement professional right now, every intelligence professional, people who in counterintelligence, their concern right now is who is going to capitalize on this moment, right? Because you have a massive media spotlight that is on this subject and nothing alone. So, yes, I've spoken to law enforcement professionals who say, the next big target is the RNC conference in Milwaukee, because that makes total sense. You get random people, you get copycat killers, you get organized killers, right? You get people who are, we know because James O'Keefe exposed them years ago Do you remember that in the 2016
Yes, and
election
that's exactly
cycle?
what I thought this morning.
When they go and they hire
I
people,
remember in Cleveland,
they
in
hire someone who's
2016.
mentally ill, or they hire someone who's homeless, or they get someone who's disturbed. I mean, people react to this kind of thing and they say, oh, it's some 20-year-old kid. Doesn't matter whether he's Antifa or he's a Republican or whatever story they come up with. They want you to believe that this person just somehow randomly on their own was able to do this.
And what I'm saying, Laura, is they're so desperate they don't even want plausible deniability now. They'll just claim communists or the Russians or Iranians. I remember being in Cleveland, 2016. There was one road to the convention center at the RNC, 2016, and they had the state police and everybody there with armored vehicles with high caliber machine guns aimed at the one road in because they were worried about a truck bomb. And I talked to the Secret Service, and they thought there was a truck bomb there. So I've got intel on this, not just some feeling. I totally agree. That's what I meant to say. Not just Mar-a-Lago. They could, and I'm not trying to scare people away, folks, but they need to block all the roads in Milwaukee, because I'm telling you, folks, what comes to my mind with all the data is massive truck bomb.
Now, I will say I'm not a prophet, right? And I try as a journalist to stick very much to what I know, what I can tell you. So these are some of the things I can tell you for a fact. When the Secret Service sends, and if Trump is going to go anywhere, or if anyone, a principal is what they call it, the person they're protecting. When you go anywhere, there's an advanced security team that goes there and makes sure that they take full control over the entire area. So there should be no cluster of buildings, as there was in this case, that is not fully under the control of the Secret Service, who is in charge. It's their jurisdiction, and whatever local law enforcement that they're using, right? So the idea that you could have these buildings, which are so close to where Trump was speaking, that they would not be secured and fully within the control of the Secret Service is incomprehensible to every counter-sniper.
It's preposterous. It's preposterous.
Yes.
And I'm saying the Secret Service told me they were worried about a truck bomb attack in 2016. And then I talked to the state police. They were there in the one road, hundreds of them with their guns aimed, thinking that it was coming. So I'm saying I add that to the data because if he's in a building and protected now, what is their next tool?
You're not wrong that is something they have to factor in, and that is something that they are concerned about. And I've been blown up in truck bombs. Okay, I've had truck bombs come through the door, the front of a building where I was inside. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Alex. And you are right that is a threat, and it's definitely something they have to factor in. But I think the most important thing for people to understand about what has actually happened is that there is no professional who understands how the Secret Service operates or understands how security operates who can understand how anyone was able to get onto those buildings. Not just that, but was able to climb up the building, then climb along the roof.
You're totally right. You're totally right, Laura. They are caught red-handed.
And then take several volleys of shots, multiple shots before they get shut down. So that is a question that really needs to be asked. And in terms of securing things going forward and what is Trump's, plan going forward, these questions, the answers to these questions also have, some weight in what decisions he and his team make going forward. Because the other thing that doesn't make sense is when it was advised by witnesses and others, when it was brought to the attention of law enforcement that there was somebody on that roof with a weapon, it doesn't make sense that the Secret Service detail that was with Trump inside the venue did not take him off the stage. If there had been proper communications between the outer perimeter of security and the inner perimeter, and things had worked the way they should have worked, right, according to protocols, they would have advised them. Now, I've also talked to snipers whose job has been, they've been in that kind of environment, and asked them, how long is it from the time
the minute you see a guy with a gun
to pulling the trigger
on a rooftop, you kill him?
Well, it takes seconds. Now, of course, if you have a team on the ground, what you want to do is, if your job as a counter sniper detail on a presidential team, you're scanning every rooftop. There were not a lot of rooftops to scan. You pretty much had one main cluster of buildings for that team to worry about. So there's, it's really hard to understand, and this is an important question to ask, how it was possible that this person had the time to climb up the building and move along the roof.
Laura, you just said it. Laura, you said it. They're going to argue all day. It's default that they didn't do that. It'd be like Again, put your kid in the bathtub and throwing a toaster plugged into the wall in the water. You murdered him. I mean,
Well, also, Alex, the thing is the distance, right? Because you're talking, I mean, everybody sort of agreed that he was roughly 150 meters from where Trump was speaking. Well, you know, the basic training for an infantryman in the U.S. Army is you have to be able to shoot from 300 meters away using your iron sights. That's the sights on your M4, right? With no additional optics or anything like that to assist you. So this is well within shooting range. In fact, so much so that many of the trained people I've spoken to said they could have done that with their offhand. Just, you know, sort of, I mean, this guy, you could literally
Laura,
lift your head and
listen,
see him.
I agree. I've shot mountain goats at 1,200 yards right in the chest, right in the head. What I'm saying is, and I think it's important you're saying all this. You're a journalist. You're doing a great job. I'm just simply saying we know they stood down. The administrative that told them not to secure the tops of buildings where a lousy shooter could shoot somebody. Thank God that round's so light. The wind they believe blew it. He was, you know, he was dead on. And then there was some gusting wind.
I don't know if it's the wind, Alex. I mean, I stay away from being definitive about exactly what was said and what was done, because there is something called a cold bore shot, right? So when you take that cold bore shot, which is the first round that leaves the barrel, the difference between the temperature, you know, inside and externally, that shot, your cold bore shot, will often veer to the left, which would have gone, you know, exactly to Trump's right. So it
Sure.
could have been
The point
wind,
is, thank God Trump didn't get killed.
The
Thank God Trump didn't
reality is,
get killed.
you know what? The reality is that the Secret Service detail that was standing with Trump right there to his side, if they'd looked at that rooftop, they could have seen that shooter with their own eyes. So nothing.
And Laura, let
makes
me raise
sense
these points since you're bringing up all the ballistics and trajectory and Coriolis and the things that were going on the ground there. I posted this on Real Alex Jones, and I'm going to try to later after I'm off here with you to do actual report on this and show this. But you see the Secret Service a good minute before running around behind the stage, moving everybody off when they were getting reports from citizens. There's a guy on the roof. So this was going on for a while beforehand. And so the ground level Secret Service was doing their job. But I don't know why they didn't go grab Trump off at that point.
What the logical explanation would be that there was a breakdown in communication between the outer rim of security and the inner rim, right? For some reason that didn't happen. And until there's a proper investigation, and by the way, not an investigation run by the FBI, and not an investigation run by any of the other politically motivated organizations and individuals who the American public has no faith in to deliver the truth, right? I mean, that is not going to do it. And Alex, in terms of going forward, well, this is a very serious, very tricky question, because on the one hand, you know, if Trump battens down the hatches and isolates himself, which is then that plays into their hands.
He can still do ballrooms. He can still do ballrooms with heavily vetted people. I'm telling you,
yeah,
Laura.
but Alex, if you go into a ballroom with a printed weapon that is made out of polymer instead of metal, you break it down into parts, and so you have multiple people each bring in a part, and you assemble it once inside. You know, that's not foolproof either.
No. I understand that. But what I'm saying is he's got to minimize threat if he's going to go out in public. All I'm saying is, and you're doing a great job breaking all this down, and it needs to be covered, but everybody is now obsessing, which they should, over the fact that obviously the Secret Service stood down, and it was a default position.
Something happened.
Well, I know you're a journalist. You like to stick to, well, let me tell you something. I saw Kennedy's head get shot in the front and the back of his head blow off. I don't have a degree in ballistics or trigonometry, but I know guns, and I've shot hogs and deer and you know, and elk, and I know what it looks like when I hit them. So all I'm saying is this was a default stand down. I've been to so many presidential events. You've been to more than I have. You've been on military bases all over the world. You've been in truck bombs, so you know better than I. That you always have your watchman on the high ground.
Always.
And my dad took me to see Ronald Reagan when I was like 7 years old in Dallas. And we got out there in the freezing cold, and he was running for president. I was 6, 7 years old. And no, he was running for re-election. That's right. So I was like 8 years old. But the point is that Ronald Reagan gets up there and is speaking, and my dad goes, "Look, son," and up on top of the federal building, there was guys with a Stinger missile. in case somebody had a hijacked plane or something. So, and I know what a Stinger missile was then, but now I know what they look like. You know, the tube with the
Of
box.
course.
There was Secret Service with Stinger missile on top, Secret Service everywhere with their rifles on top of the deal. So again, where are they? They're on the roofs because that's where shooters come from. And so you've got all these roofs 450 feet away, and then there's no Secret Service. That is not a screw up. Whoever gave the orders to not cover the roofs knew exactly what was going to happen. Any event I've ever been to, when a governor speaks, the roofs are crawling with the state police. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
That is the job, Alex, of the advance team, to identify all of those buildings and to take full control.
And they're the ones that need to be interrogated.
And they didn't have it.
And listen, I'm not a guy that supported John Yoo and his torture memos and all that stuff. But I'm going to just say this right now. When people are trying to kill the real president of the U.S. and they want to bring in martial law after they kill him, I'm just saying this, okay? And I don't wish any harm against somebody or any violence. I'm just saying, the people that gave those orders need to be interrogated. And I mean interrogated. But unfortunately, the Justice Department is run by the people that ran this. Look, we know, and so I'm going to just say it. This was Merrick Garland of the CIA. I'm speculating, but it's like all the pieces are there. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle with 100 pieces. You're down to like the last 3 pieces. And the last pieces are Merrick Garland and the CIA director and Joe Biden. And they said, son of a bitch, he's going to win. And, you know, he's going to block our war in Russia. Kill that son of a bitch. And I guarantee you the decision was made to kill Trump 5 weeks ago. And I said this in the green room to you, and I said this on air with you. I said, listen, I'm freaked out because they wouldn't come to shut this down without a court order. That's totally illegal. Hysterically saying, quote, the Justice Department is ordering us to do this. I think they were planning to kill Trump that week. And I'm not saying I'm that important. I believe that if they would have killed Trump yesterday successfully, they would have launched a cyber attack or something and cut the internet off for most people. I'm telling you, folks, big stuff's going down. So I'm glad everybody's covering the nuts and bolts of the new grassy knoll and all this stuff. That's good. But I'm telling you, the deep state did this. We know it. And they're going to make a move. We don't have time for hesitation anymore. They did this. We're in the middle of a live coup. My life's in danger. Laura, you better believe yours is. The top of the list is Elon Musk, Donald Trump. It goes Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, down the list, because they know we can't be bought, and we're not perfect. So when you run a coup like this, and Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and you and others blew up their whole COVID lie, you think they're going to leave players like that on the field? I physically feel the danger. And at 50, I've learned to follow my gut. And my gut tells me,
Alex. That's a good point. And there is talk, you know, and it's a question that needs to be asked. Is there a list? And who is on this list, right? And who compiled this list? Because there is concern in some quarters, you know, from people I've spoken to, that we're looking at Kristallnacht, right? This is the beginning of how you try to take out all of your enemies.
100%.
And now I would say, because I don't speculate, and I know we're coming to the close of this, I have another show I have to jump onto, but I'm not saying that you're wrong, Alex. I'm just saying there's a difference between what I believe and what I know to be true as a fact, what I can verify to you as a reporter. I can tell you as a fact that it is the job of the Secret Service to take full control of every single building on the outer perimeter, that the advanced team does that and the other team comes in place. They are supposed to have communications between the inner and outer teams and so on. Those are the things I can tell you for certain. Can I tell you exactly who's responsible at this point? No. Is it very obvious that who has the most to gain from taking Trump out? Yes, it's extremely obvious. Is it very obvious at this point that the tactics of 2020, where they could get away with saying, oh, Trump's going to look like he's winning, and then when all the mail-in ballots are counted, you're going to find that Biden won, right? And then they provided all the fake ballot drops in the middle of the night in certain places, and all the other things that they did to get the physical result to match the digital result that they had engineered, right? They can't do that this time around. It's not convincing anymore. You know,
Laura, you're absolutely right.
I'm not a fan of all the hysteria over the debate, because it's frustrating to me that people who are suddenly real reporters asking Karine Jean-Pierre about Biden's mental, state after the debate couldn't have asked that the years before that. So, but at the same time, when you look at it in terms of information warfare, the most powerful weapon that they have is getting people to believe that it is possible for Biden to be legitimately elected.
Absolutely. And killing
we
Trump.
are now in a point where that is not possible. That most people in this country realize that it's a 1 in a gazillion chance that a man with fairly advanced dementia, who is as unpopular as Biden, has a snowball's chance in hell of legitimately.
Well, that's right. And that's another reason they tried to kill Trump, is because it would change the subject from Dementia Joe to what are the Republicans going to do. And that's why all the evidence is there, all the pieces are there. And at a certain point in life, you just got to go with the evidence that's on the table. The deep state's in full swing. They've been calling for Trump's death. They've been doing all of this. They're totally desperate. And just watch. And I don't want to be proven right about this. They are going to try to kill Trump. And I'm just telling everybody what comes next. You're absolutely right, Laura, that the Secret Service, the stand down, the advance team, whoever made those orders was trying to open the gate so this would happen to get Trump killed. And it's very suspicious. And the shooter being a loner, it's always the same story. And I look forward to talking to you. I know we've been playing phone tag. Really want to work with you. Yeah. It was great meeting you. I want to get you back at studio. I'd love to come back on your show. I loved meeting you
too, Alex. I loved meeting you too. And I'll say this will be my last thing. It is true that Secret Service, law enforcement, anyone who cares about this professionally or is involved professionally is currently looking at and factoring in the possibility that other people are going to capitalize. They didn't get what they wanted. They wanted Trump dead. It was an act of God that prevented him from dying. And so the idea that they're all done and they're just going to pack up and go home, that idea is undermined, first of all, by rationale and reason and logic. But more importantly, when you look at what was the motivation in the first place, Trump is going to have to hold people accountable. I mean, number one, because it's the right thing to do. Number two, because it's reached that point where it has to break. And number three, because he now knows without a shadow of a doubt that these people are going to get rid of him and everyone in his family if he doesn't deal with this. So there's no more letting a whole bunch of traitors into the White House in the name of working with the establishment and so on and so on. I mean,
I totally agree. And that's why they're even more scared.
These 4 years will be unrecognizable from anything this country has seen. I mean, I've already been talking to some people who are involved in advising on the transition side and all the rest of it. And what they're looking at is a real draining of the swamp. And when you're talking about a real draining of the swamp, you can be absolutely sure that the swamp is going to fight back.
Perfectly said, Laura. And so thank you for having me on here. I'll be doing my own shows throughout the day at Real Alex Jones. Follow us there. Please come on my show again anytime you want. It's great to having you living so close in Texas. Great meeting your husband and crew. But yeah, we should pray for President Trump now more than ever. The deep state is fully engaged. They've tried everything to take him out. And the next thing on the trajectory, as Tucker said, as I've said, is killing President Trump. They're clearly, in my view, 98% chance the deep state's behind this. This guy might even be the shooter. Who even knows? Because the security stand down shows you the fix was in. So the sky's the limit. They're going for broke, but we've got the initiative. Humanity's winning. Pray for President Trump. Pray for America. Pray for world peace. Laura, thank you so much.
Laura, thank you so much.
Bye, Mel.
Have a good hit, Laura. Alex, if you can stick around, I've got a panel here. I'm sure they've got a couple more questions they want to pepper you. I know you've got to go do your own live broadcast.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I came here to a group infiltrated Bohemian Grove. And they've got 50 hours of footage of world leaders talking crap about Trump. They reportedly have got footage of them after he got shot, what they were saying. This is Republican leadership. We've got them doing druidic rituals last night.
Right.
So I'm believe me, I want to be here. I've got to get on the computer and look at 50 hours of footage these guys are trying to give us right now. But no, I mean, I've got a little bit more time, so let's just. I'm trying to eat an elephant here. So
we appreciate it. Congressional hearings. I know Pete's got a question. Congressional hearings. They're talking about hearings. When have they ever accomplished anything in a congressional hearing? Should we even bother reporting?
Yeah, they're just going to give the Secret Service more funding, and Biden's the one that cut the Secret Service to Trump, refused it to RFK Jr. So bare minimum, he through deliberate negligence is behind us. Okay, so Biden almost got Trump killed. Let's be clear about that. And he said, I will not let Trump be president. Trump wants to get us out of the war. And I love Laura Logan. I love all you guys. But I'm going to tell people something because I've predicted so many things. And there's nothing sicker than predicting things and watching them come true. Then I get more credibility. I want to predict stuff and get people to stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state was behind that yesterday. You can guarantee it. It's all over the place. Do I need a degree in zoology to know when I look at a Bengal tiger from India, it's a damn Bengal tiger. Or the one time I was out with my dad fishing when I was 8 years old, he caught a 10-foot hammerhead. They hauled the damn thing in the boat. I said, "That's a hammerhead, Daddy." Okay, they tried to kill him. They shot him in the damn ear. They had nobody on the rooftops, 450 feet away. Give me a break. And they're going to do it again. And because they're going to be controlling the rooftops now, they're going to truck bomb his ass. So just watch. And I'm telling Trump, and I'm telling everybody out there in the Republican Party, they're good. The Republican establishment wants to kill Trump. The Democrats want to kill him. NATO wants to kill him.
And he's just announced, by the way, that he will be leaving in about 25 minutes, headed to Milwaukee. He's tweeted out, based on yesterday's terrible events, I was going to delay my trip to Wisconsin and the Republican National Convention by 2 days. But I have just decided that I cannot allow a shooter or potential assassin to force change to scheduling or anything else. Therefore, I will be leaving for Milwaukee as scheduled at 3:30 p.m. today. Thank you, DJT. That was out there.
Yeah. I predicted Trump would do this. This is who he is. He has ice water in his veins. And I'm just saying strategically, okay, well, we're
and
going to
Alex,
see what
Alex,
happens.
we're hearing there are going to be 10,000 protesters in Milwaukee that are going to be able to get very, very close to the venue. 10,000 protesters. I actually got a text last night from one of our biggest supporters who is their delegates. They said they fear that they're walking into a setup. Supposedly, they're supposed to be given shuttles into the venue. And they said if the shuttle service begins to look shaky and they don't have a way to get in and out, they're looking to actually abandon the convention themselves for their own. Here's
the deal. I don't think the general public
don't go.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the general public should cut and run over this. I'm just simply saying the globalists did this, 98% chance. And I mean, it's 100. Come on, people.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is happening. And so the globalists are desperate. And so now they're totally screwed. All they've got left is killing Trump. And so I believe they're going to do false flags, racial false flags to blame Trump supporters. They're going to try to create civil unrest. They've said they are. They've prepared it. They've said when he's president-elect, Senator Warner and Blumenthal they're two deep state top people, said there's going to be civil unrest when Trump gets elected, and then they're going to drive him from office before he ever gets sworn in, and they're going to strip him of the War Powers Act and the Insurrection Act. They have a bill that is a legislative coup over the president.
Look, Alex is bang on.
Alex,
they know President Trump.
Sorry.
They know President Trump hand down. They know he's not going to stand down. They know he's going to go. President Trump's a warrior. Alex is dead bang on. And President Trump's not going to go down to a bunker either. These folks have this planned out, option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're executing a plan. It's that simple.
So what are you expecting for the RNC convention, Ann? What are your thoughts about what's going to happen this week?
Well, I mean, they've already got dengue fever. They've got a couple hundred cases of dengue fever, which is an RNA virus. And Dr. Zelenko has proven that RNA viruses are totally defeatable with hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, zinc, or ivermectin. So we shouldn't panic over this stuff. But they've already got these viruses queued up. I expect them to do what they did when they released COVID, and I got that COVID.
That's right.
virus.
They're gonna. Sorry, somebody called me and cut the line. Yes, they are. You guys have got it all figured out. Okay, we just need to get everybody to tune into you. I know you got millions watching. We need tens of millions. This is not a freaking game. The deep state's gone over the edge. They have nothing to lose. It's on. And just like the last guy said, they've got option A, B, C, D, down to Z. And I'm telling you, truck bomb is like A right now. Believe me. Look. All they have to do in Wisconsin is block stuff from a half mile from the building. And if they don't do that, then you don't. If you go there and a half mile away, there aren't huge truck barriers. And I mean on the sidewalks too. If you show up and you don't see the sidewalks blocked for a half mile away, leave, run. But I don't. That's why I've been saying truck bombs. Because if you show up and they don't have barriers, and I mean substantive multiple rings, because you can get a dump truck or whatever, a heavy vehicle through those things. If you don't see,
Alex, I know the answers to the question, but I want you to answer it. Do they have the capabilities to do something so horrifying, like remotely control planes and fly them into buildings or at a venue or Is something like that, do you anticipate that they're going to use their most sophisticated technology they've been deploying for decades?
Yeah, I mean, and Pete, they're so desperate. I'll just say it. They might set off a low yield nuclear weapon in Mar-a-Lago or in Milwaukee. I mean, and people are like, oh, they want to have plausible deniability. They don't care because they're going to shut the internet off and blow up a bunch of black churches and say we did it. Okay, it's on. Okay, that's why we've got to get ahead of what their next battle plan is now on the threat of escalation. I told you, lawfare, indictments, impeachments, convictions, how that works. Next is assassination. And then I said, if the assassination fails, then they go to massive false flags, including nuclear. And I don't want to sound like a hysteric here. I'm telling you, on the next train here is hijacking jets, flying them into buildings, mass bombings, false flags, truck bombing of Mar-a-Lago, nuclear false flag. That's on the line is now coming up. Truck bombs and nuclear false flags. See where we are?
Yes, sir. One last question. Do you think that Eric Prince, who has never lost a protectee, by the way, and in 2017, President Trump took on Ollie North and Eric Prince to handle his intelligence services as a private contractor?
No, that's very smart. I mean, in fact, I would get rid of the Secret Service.
Yes, sir.
Because I mean, they're infiltrated. I would have nothing but his security force.
Don't see any other way around that at this point. It's really obvious. I mean, Alejandro Mayorkas, Alex, he was on the board of HIAS, which has also been very much behind the invasion we see at the southern border. He got his, hand slapped by the president of Panama.
Yeah, we have a communist globalist cult in control of the damn country, folks. That's what communists do. They try to put you in jail, and if that doesn't work, they kill you. And then if that doesn't work, they blow a bunch of stuff up. And Alex, they blame it. Yeah.
Colonel McGregor's calling for a snap new election because of this turmoil in our country. Don't you think that we have enough justification to call for an early election like Colonel McGregor's?
Look, we have enough justification to do anything we want at this point. The question is, how will they spin it against us? So that's great. And because the Democrats are already about to try to replace Biden extrajudicially and outside of the law, Trump could say, fine, I want the election held the week after and you select whoever. Yeah. The problem is there's not the machinery or the mechanisms to do that. That would mess them up trying to steal it. But that's not going to happen. I love McGregor. That's a great headline grabber. But that's not going to happen. We've got 113 days. And we got the 7 days of hell. And folks, if you think things are crazy, let me just explain something. Ladies and gentlemen, I am getting 10 times the spidey sense I've ever had right now of absolute hell. So people better pray. They better get more active than they've ever gotten. And they better move on from arguing about, was it a lone gunman? Or, why'd the Secret Service stand down? And who's going to investigate it? We know what they did. We know they did it. And I'm telling you, they've got truck bombs loaded right now. The order is given to bomb the RNC. They may bomb the DNC and blame it on Trump. I'm telling you, there's a lot of, I know the cards they got in their hand, okay? They got a bunch of these cards. False flags, attack black churches, attack black colleges, blame Trump supporters, mass shootings. Okay, so they can go with those to make Trump look bad, but no one's going to buy that. People are used to Jussie Smollett stuff, on steroids. Then there's try to kill Trump, but now there's going to be more people watching. It's going to be harder. So they may be desperate enough to claim the Iranians did it, for Soleimani and roll a truck bomb in. Okay, so that's the story. Truck bomb Trump, so the Iranians did it. And then war starts in Iran right after that. And damn it, America's going to get them damn Iranians. And that's how the CIA thinks. If we kill Trump, claim the Iranians did it, then I think we'll go on. So there's that. And then if it gets down to Trump as president-elect in 113 days, they start riots all over the country, start burning everything down, try to drive Trump from office, say, we'll stop burning it all. They do a cyber attack, claim the Russians did it, turn the power off in half the country. They will do any of that. And then if it looks like they're going to fail and nothing's working and Trump's organized folks and all that's happened, and Trump's got his government already operating, saying the government's been seized, he say he's governing from Florida, then they detonate a 1 megaton nuke at Mar-a-Lago. I'm telling you, they got nuclear weapons. I'm not just saying this. They got nuclear weapons following Trump around. One order's given. They've got a plan. It's in a folder. They've got low-yield nuclear weapons following him around. Biden gives the order. Obama gives the order. Nuke goes off. And they know that's super dangerous. But they'll do it if they're desperate, which they are. getting ahead of the enemy. That's why they hate me. They know I see them. I'm telling you, you're getting the direct intel. Okay.
Incredible. Incredible. Mel.
Well, Alex, how much does this have to do with NATO last week having this meeting to plan out another 10 years of war and then
Everything.
Orban going around?
Everything.
What? Right.
Everything.
People have to understand that it's much bigger than America, what's happening. Trump
Well,
is
that's right.
a threat
Kennedy,
to the world.
as I first said, pull us out of Vietnam. He gave the first order for the first 100,000 troops to come back. They blew us head off 29 days later. Trump said, I want peace. I don't want to kill people. I'll end it by cutting the funding. And they had their big NATO summit where they all sit around and act tough. And I guarantee you, Biden went, just watch what happens to Trump. The hell, he's even the news saying we'll get rid of him. And they all sat around with Richard Haas and the CFR and, yeah, son of a bitch, watch what's going to happen. And then their little kook they had wound up didn't get the shot he wanted. And so now they are facing total defeat. And these guys never give up. So the next move is truck bomb, poison Trump. That's something they like the poisoning. That's less dramatic. Poison Trump, truck bomb, shoot him if they can, fly a plane into his building, and then national race riots once he's president-elect. And then if that doesn't work, tactical nuclear weapon. And let me just tell you, if Trump's president-elect, he must go to a armored mountain fortress. Trump must go to a media center under a mountain because, listen to me, it's not cowardly when you're the top general and you've got the strategic plan. You're about to get full control of the system to remove yourself from the enemy attack. That's why you've got pawns. That's why you've got knights. That's why you've got rooks. That's why you've got bishops. That's why you've got a queen. And so it's why it's cloak and dagger. You got a cloak. You don't know what's happening. There's a dagger there. Trump needs to cloak than ever. But just running around at these events and speeches, he needs to be doing emergency addresses every damn day to the American people.
Absolutely.
Guys, I'm going to jump. I love you. You're amazing. It was great being on with all you guys.
Alex, thank you so much.
I'm going to break Major Bohemian Grove news at 4 p.m. Central. God bless.
God bless you, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, well, that was
Alex is bang
pretty
on. There's nothing left. Their back's against the wall. Their back's been against the wall for a long time, and they've had multiple failure after failure after failure. The stakes have never been higher.
Yeah.
We have not been, as a nation, in this much danger, and we have not been this close to the cliff as we are right now.
And we have to remember, we have how many hundreds of thousands of military-age males that are highly fit, many of them, I think, highly trained. They're sitting here, and they're not here, I don't think, to sit for 24 months. They're here for right now. This is the window. And
That's right.
now the question is, who will activate them? And how will they activate them? But you've got a standing army in the U.S. Gordon Chang has been on my broadcast warning about this. He's probably been on the broadcast of many of you, warning about this invasion. The CCP, not to mention the Iranian terror cells, Hezbollah, Hamas, they're here. They're here. And you and I know the red-green axis. Most Americans, it took a long time for them to catch up to use the word communism. At my Minneapolis Worldview Weekend back in November 1997, we did our first hour on cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School to over 1,000 people. And some of those people are diehard worldview conservatives. We're saying, why are we talking about communism? The Berlin Wall's fallen. Communism isn't the threat. And we were trying to explain to them cultural Marxism penetrating our institutions and what it has done up to that point would continue to do. So it's taken Americans a long time to get used to using the word communism. When I wrote my book, Marxianity, The Merging of Marxism and Christianity, came out in 2018. My book, Grave Influence, came out in 2009. And we're just hammering communism, Marxism, cultural Marxism. People didn't want to use the word communism. They wanted to use progressive, statist. They didn't want to use the C word. And now they're still behind the curve, which sadly the conservative movement, it took Fox News forever to use the C word, communism. And I'll tell you what Fox News is not using now, and most conservatives aren't using, and that is the red-green axis. Because Carlos the Jackal, a well-known Islamic terrorist, Carlos the Jackal says you cannot bring down America without a communist and Islamic coalition. Okay? So we're talking about the communist all the time now, but very few people want to talk about the Islamist. because they don't want to seem like they're Islamophobic, right? Because this is the success of the brainwashing and information operation that you can't say anything about Islam now. That's a protected class, right? And look, after 9/11, you would have thought that had been the opportunity to expose Islam. George W. Bush wants to tell you they're all peaceful, loving people. And he, of course, that's, we can go into the Obama, bin Laden family and all that garbage.
Muslim Brotherhood, et cetera,
Yes.
in the White House
Yes.
hundreds of times.
And yet, when we try to expose Islam and quote from the Quran, the Hadith, whatnot, what happened with Islam in America? It actually grew. It actually grew. It expanded. So people have been behind. They're a day late and a dollar short all the time, sadly. They're just now figuring out communism, but they're missing another 50% of the coalition, Islam. And they don't realize that the Islamists have their terror cells here. Their trainers are here. They're ready to go. And I'll tell you, Leo Holman and I, our associate producer at Worldview Report, have been warning for months and months and months. And I'm not a defender of Putin. I'm not a defender. I know that, my documentary Siege came out in December of 2019. We talked about Vostok 18, that China and Russia practiced the largest military exercise in world history in 2018. I know the coalition, the BRICS system, all they're doing. But NATO and the West, these guys are pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. They could have told him, we will not add Ukraine to NATO. We will not be dragging weapons into Ukraine. They've done everything but that. Now they're giving weapons. They got the technicians sitting there, putting in the technology necessary that we know that they cannot do out of Ukraine without Europe or us helping them, to target deep inside Russia, take out their early warning system, which has nothing to do with Ukraine's war. We know now we're going to give them fighter jets and pilots. This was announced, of course, again last week by Hans Stoltenberg at the NATO conference in DC. They're doing everything they can to draw these red lines. And I'm not saying this to be a defender of Putin. I'm just presenting facts. They have set this guy up, because this is where I thought Alex Jones was going to go there. They have set Putin up to be able to carry out a false flag in America and then blame it, as he said, on the Iranians, but also blame it on, if they wanted to, on Putin, on Russia, because they've done everything to say, oh, you see, Putin's done this. I think the deep state has been setting this up. The question is, what will they use? They have so many tools at their exposure right now that they can grab. Will it be the Islamist, Marxist, Red, Green Axis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the terror cells in the U.S.? Will it be a false flag and blame it on China, Russia, North Korea, or Iran? I don't know. But he's right. The danger level is super high. The power grid is at risk. Of course, how are you going to have an election if your grid goes down, right? So if you want to delay the election, take down your power grid, how are you going to do that?
That's
and
right.
By the way, you guys remember that line in that Civil War movie? That it was a bogus movie. No, not the Civil War movie. It was the Michelle Obama, Barack Obama movie. Do you remember one of the lines in that movie? They're trying. One of the guys turns to the other and says, "They got it started. Now they're going to let us kill each other. Now they're going to start the Civil War and let us kill each other." That's, again, interesting, coming out of a Barack Obama, Michelle Obama produced movie, saying you light the fuse, you get it going, the Hegelian dialectic, and then you just let Americans go at each other. Does anyone see a recipe here where you have Americans fighting each other? Which, by the way, they got to turn that paradigm back on, because guess what? That paradigm was collapsing. The Republican versus Democrat, right versus left paradigm was collapsing, which is why you have Naomi Wolf coming on all of our shows, right? An admitted progressive at one time, right? Now writing articles defending the Second Amendment, coming on and exposing the deep state. Laura Logan, I had Del Bigtree on my show the other night, right? Another guy that was a little more progressive, right? Now he's the communications director for RFK Jr. All of these people that normally stayed in their own lane, they're not. The right, the left, the middle, the libertarians, the former, quote, progressives, they've all united. Do we all agree? No, we openly say, well, we don't agree on this issue, but we agree on First Amendment, free speech, freedom of religion, Second Amendment, your Fourth Amendment rights, the dangers of the deep state, the globalists, the medical industrial complex. So there's a coalition of Americans now, millions and millions and millions, that have broken through the Hegelian dialectic paradigm to keep us divided, right? They're looking now for a way to bring back the divide and have us war against each other.
So I don't think they'll be successful. I really don't. One of my takeaways from watching yesterday, I do big events. I always have my finger on the pulse of the people, and that's what I focused on yesterday, watching the videos of the shooting of Trump. If you watch the people, the American people that are in the audience, a year ago, people would have been running for cover. People would have been hitting the deck. People stood. They stood up. A lot of people didn't even sit down. The American people are uniting. The American people are ready to take their country back. They were so brave yesterday, and immediately after, former President Trump is shot at, they start chanting USA. This is not a defeated people. This is not a divided people. These are a people that are ready to take their nation back, and they love their country. I think the American people are waking up, and I think they are ready to unite. I think one thing we all agree on is no more war. No one wants that. There's plenty of things that we can unite on, and I really believe the American people, especially after yesterday, are ready to do that. I think it's time, and I think it's 1 minute to midnight. But never discount Americans. We've pulled a rabbit out of the hat before historically, and I believe we will do it again. I'm not hopeless.
Amen.
And that's what makes them so
Amen.
dangerous now. That's why we've backed them into a corner because of all the things you just said, and correctly so, Maureen. That's why it's so dangerous right now, because it's not working. It's not working. So they're backed into a corner. They literally are looking at going to prison, trials. I mean, they're looking at a lot, right? So you have just cornered a rabid animal into a corner.
Who's wounded.
They have no choice. What's that?
They're gonna push the button.
Right.
They've got the teams in. They've got the armaments in. And they've got them ready to go. They've got the funding. They've got multiple plays. It's only to the point they're ready to push the button and totally willing to do it.
Jovan, do you agree? And Brent, everybody, do you agree that their power will come through the chaos if they can get us pitted against each other? Do you remember Rwanda, the Rwandan massacre? A million people. And by the way, I understand
their power comes from what you and I've discussed before.
Through the chaos.
But it comes through the continuancy of government and shutting down the Constitution and being able to take the airwaves, shut down the air, all the things that come with a national state of emergency. Okay. So that's where their power is.
That's why it's been a countdown to chaos. That is what exactly has been planned, and they're doing. It's a countdown.
And I want to bring
to chaos.
I want to bring Mel in on this really quickly, because Mel, you also have a book that's on pre-order right now, Americans Anonymous. From your perspective, what is it that we, the people, need to do to basically support what Maureen was just talking about? Americans are coming together. They're seeing the heinous acts and they're looking for solutions. And from your book, you're actually dissecting that.
Yeah, I mean, what we have to realize is that we've all been fed a steady diet of conflict and chaos by dealers and manipulators and, as I call it, the global governance people out there. And frankly, I mean, this has been a long planned. I too feel the same way as Maureen, because I see what's happening. Even we have Peter Navarro getting out of jail. He's going to start speaking about what happened in there and uniting, I think, even more people against this completely controlled, corrupt, captured government that is functioning against the people from DC. And more than everything else, we have to start to realize that this wasn't organic. We were set up through mind control, through manipulation, through predictive programming to actually hate each other. And I feel like we needed an intervention in this country. And one of my biggest theses is in there is that we're as sick as our secrets in America. We got to go back to 1963 and we got to uncover everything that's happened, because frankly, it's one cover up after another cover up, after another trauma, after another cover up. And yet again, we're here again, and nobody's been held accountable. And frankly, it's spawned from all the same people. And like I said, I think the most dangerous people right now are those that committed treason and sedition in 2016 and have gotten away with it, ended up putting themselves back in power and have been running the lawfare and all of that. These people are not working for us. We have a parent company running America that is invested financially, mentally, emotionally, in every way in a future that America is no longer the United States. We no longer have standing. They're in a post-America global governance world. And I think one of the biggest things here that people have to understand is the amount of money that these people have invested in their Agenda 2030 model, and it's failing. It's being exposed. Donald Trump will be totally against it. So there's also that aspect of it. The parent company that controls America is going to lose trillions and trillions of dollars if they don't continue down the same path. And like everyone here has said, they're captured animals, they're cornered animals, and they're very dangerous right now. But at the end of the day, it's all going to be about local action, getting together, meeting in local communities, building neighborhood groups. My whole thing is about having freedom watch cells, knowing who the enemy is, being brave, being Paul Revere in your sphere of influence, because we can't get everyone with our platforms, but we can get millions of people. But those millions of people have to know that they have to go out and do it themselves. This is an information war, and we need to encourage people to go on the offensive. No more, going along to get along. It's over. We have to go straight for the truth. The truth is our weapon. And frankly, I think there's a lot more people on our side just that would rather not be involved, but it's too late. Everyone's involved. We really have to get to the non-voters and the people that have stayed out of the fray, that don't believe in politics, because this isn't about politics. It's about cleaning out a very deep evil in Washington, D.C. that is aligned with foreign nations to destroy all of us.
You better believe it. Folks, it's really simple. If you're watching, tag, you're it. You're the answer. You're the solution. You are the army that has to fight this. It's truth and knowledge. But what they're afraid of is us collectively. That means you have to activate. And if you don't know how they're doing it to us, you cannot defend against it. Mm-hmm. The formula is you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are the cavalry, for sure.
Which brings up the issue of what J.J. Corral and Christy Hutchinson and others have been talking about, and that is, and of course, Muckraker, Anthony Rubin, all the drone footage, aerial footage of these massive camps, that are set up, these tents. I mean, it's not conspiracy. They got the drone footage, Michael Yon, and you know about them. You've been to some of them. Why are they doing these huge contracts and putting these up? And people are, talking about a pandemic, all that kind of thing coming out. What if it's what Alex Jones is talking about? They're planning some event that will require the removal of a lot of population centers to these camps. So again, that's what we've been saying on our broadcast. Don't think the tents are just for a pandemic or political dissidents. What if the camps are being set up as the way to funnel the citizens when there's a terrorist attack or Russia strikes America? They got to have somewhere to move your population centers out of New York and other places. So they probably have a lot of these puzzle pieces already in place that they can use. It doesn't mean they'll use these puzzle pieces. They can have puzzle pieces they put there, and if they need them, they'll bring them into the picture. If not, they sit there till they need them. But something we cannot think one-dimensional when we see something and say, "Oh, it has to be this." No, it doesn't have to be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Pete, I know you knew Phil Haney, right, Pete?
I knew of Phil Haney, Brannon House. He was on his network. We
produced Phil Haney's TV show from this desk. Wow. And Phil was supposed to be back in the studio here the next month before I believe he was assassinated. And Phil was talking to me. I knew Phil very, very well. We were very, very close friends. I knew his wife, who died of a horrific type of cancer. And he was very, very guarded of her, but yet he put her on FaceTime with me, put her on the phone with me. Franny, I got to know her when she passed away. Phil, of course, when you lose a spouse, you kind of spiral, right? But he pulled it together. One of the last conversations I had with him on my cell phone, walking through a grocery store, was him telling me how he'd met someone. He was happy. This was a wonderful woman. He was playing his guitar and singing music to her. He was going to come back into our studio, record another 12 shows. He was going to get out on the campaign trail and speak. He was working on a new book about what he knew. And he told me multiple times, as he did others, if I'm ever found shot and dead, I did not kill myself. So he was going in for a heart procedure. His last texts that evening were to many friends about going in for a heart procedure. And then after he was recovered, he would be back on the road. I don't know if that sounds like a guy that's about to shoot himself in the chest, telling his friends he's going in for a heart procedure, and then we'll be back on the road. And then when it happened, I got to know one of his family members. I won't name the relation, but they said, look, this is murder. We know it. Some of the people on the right, who I think are highly suspect, claimed otherwise, but that's their business. But those of us that know him well know that that wasn't his way. To go to a park and ride, pull out a folding chair and sit in a folding chair and shoot yourself in the chest. He was a trained armed DHS official. He was actually texting with Ken Cuccinelli, one of the last texts he sent, right? I mean, you're going to start sending text to your friends and then
AG from Virginia, right? Cuccinelli?
He was inside, I think, DHS at that point with Trump, Cuccinelli.
Okay.
And if you go look at the report, he apparently is such a bad shot. He missed his heart and it went down and then came out his lower back, according to the report that was released. There were multiple fingerprints, at least two sets of prints on the gun. There were other fingerprints that were found in his car there. You know, if the guy wanted to shoot himself in the chest, I'm pretty sure Phil knew where his heart was. And then there was no suicide note. We heard nothing about a suicide note for 2 years. And then when the FBI released their report, voila, there's a suicide note. Well, they didn't write like Phil writes. Okay. It didn't sound like Phil. And his own family member said, that's not his handwriting.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've been doing this for about 2.5 hours. I really, really appreciate it.
But why did somebody bring up Phil? Who brought up Phil and why?
I did. I brought up Phil. It was in relation to DHS comment, because, you know, he was exposing a lot that was going on in DHS during the Obama administration. And, you know, I was actually supposed to speak with him at an event in Vero Beach 2 weeks after he was mortally suicided.
He was indicted. His book is called See Something, Say Nothing. He was indicted because as a DHS officer, he was stopping what he believed to be terrorists, what he knew to be terrorists, from coming into the U.S. And he said on my documentary Siege, on the platform with Billy Vaughn, whose son was killed in Extortion 17, SEAL Team 6, he said with him and all these other guys on the platform in front of 1,000+ people, President Trump, if you want to drain the swamp, I know where the valve is. I can put your hand on the valve. You will have to turn it, but you need to enlist guys like me to help you drain the swamp. And he said if he'd been allowed to do his job, he believes on the threads he was pulling, he could have stopped the terrorist attack in Chattanooga, Little Rock, San Bernardino, and many of these, but he was not allowed. He said when I would stop these people, we would find out later, and he named all kinds of guys in the deep state and people's names you would recognize, that they would stop this and let them in. And he said we would call it DTR, down the road, DTR, down the road. They were down the road. There they went down the road here into the U.S. So he was trying to stop these terror cells that are, listen now, here, organized and waiting for the very moment that you and I are all warning about now.
That's right. Again, they're on all 50 states. Pete Santilli, Mel K, Brandon Howse, my sweet dear friend Maureen Steele, Jovan Hutton-Pulitzer, who is an absolute brainiac. I just loved your analysis this morning. That's why I reached out to you immediately. Like, you've got to come on. And of course, you know, the great Alex Jones and the incredible Lara Logan. To have everybody on this broadcast today was just so instrumental. I think everybody drove the major points home. This is just the kickoff, and it's only going to get worse. So we need to batten down the hatches. We need to be ready. But again, you know, I think this team right here, we're not about fear porn. We're just about, here's the facts and here's the escalation. You know, this is the trajectory it's going. And, you know, if you want to look at someone who's always been right, Alex has been right going back decades. So I don't take his prophecy, and I don't like to use that word lightly. I take it very seriously. So I appreciate all
By
of
the
you.
way, Ann,
Yeah.
thank you for organizing this, Ann. Thank you for letting us stream it at worldviewtube.com. And you know, we produce Roger's show. We will be producing a live show with Roger here at Worldview Tube. That'll be starting at 5 Central, 6 Eastern. So Roger will be stepping in here live for an hour at 5 o'clock Central, 6 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. So I think a lot of folks want to hear that.
So everybody go around and plug. Brandon, where can folks follow you?
Just worldviewtube.com. You know, I guess our Twitter handle is Twitter handle is @WorldviewReport. No, @WorldviewTube. @WorldviewTube. I don't do the whole social media thing. My kids do all that for me. @WorldviewTube is our Twitter handle.
Okay, Mel, where can folks find you?
The Mel K Show at Rumble, themelkshow.com, Wimpton, and everywhere that's free speech. Pretty much, I will be found every single night with a new show with people much smarter than me to put the pieces together. So thanks so much, Ann. It was great to.
Well, we
thank
were
you
able to stream on your platform too, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Jovan, you are twice a day. You're a warrior. Where can folks follow you?
Easiest is just rumble.com/Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, or use #. It's just hashtag Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. I broadcast 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 7 days a week in Central Standard Time with a repeat of something we did at noon. So now it's 3 times a day, and we're all in this together. It is knowledge and truth that's going to set us free.
Amen, brother. Pete Santilli, the incredible, indefatigable Marine.
Oh my goodness, I'm so honored to be part of this distinguished panel. And the best way right now, my central social media platform seems to be very reliable, is on X. You'll find all of our content because we also stream to X, our shows at 8 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m. Eastern. And then, of course, 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Peter Santilli at X, the best way to find us.
Maureen, you have some exciting news. You've got something coming up on Pete's platform.
I sure do. A show called Fundamental Changes. I'll be featuring, excuse me, I have something in my throat. I'll be featuring common law experts, how we're going to take the country back using common law and our founding documents. So sorry, there's something wrong with my throat.
That's okay.
So that's I know, I'm choking over here. So that's coming up at the beginning of August. Pete is my producer, and it'll be on Spreely. And I think it's going to be running on Pete's channel as well. And you can find me on X at @MaureenSteele_.
Awesome. All right, everybody. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I'm going to play us out with just a little reminder of somebody who was a hero, who I think that, really calls the shots. He's no longer with us. The late, great Andrew Breitbart. He definitely will put an exclamation point as to where we are right now.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you.